All right. So, Eris, thank you for being here. Fanatic, thank you for being here. We are talking about uh, how men on this platform, in this Twitch politics space, uh, should interact with women, and whether the way we've been currently interacting with them uh, can be problematic, can be make this a less inclusive space. Should changes be made? So, what are your also of Eris? What are your general thoughts on all this?
Um, I guess like I'm kind of a mixed bag because um in some ways I think Joe is right. I just think in regards to the tweet I saw him do, I think that that was a bit extreme. What I would have said instead of saying anti-fem, I would have said that maybe there's some like unconscious bias there. But the truth is that I think almost everyone has unconscious bias, and not saying that as a way to downplay it, but um I mean honestly even women have unconscious bias against women, because we're raised in a misogynistic society too. You see it all the time with the way women treat one another in games or in like on this Twitch platform, the competitiveness, the cattiness and stuff. The So I don't actually think it's necessarily just a problem with dudes. I think it's just easier to call dudes out on it. Um, uh, because it's yeah,
Mm.
because most of the people that you're dealing with are dudes. Um, and people like having just like a black and white issue.
Mm.
But just in general, I think like I um I don't think in regards to the Hans thing, I don't think he is like consciously sexist or anything, right? But like I have a lot of friends where I'm talking to them and I definitely feel like there's some unconscious bias there. I remember my first interaction with Demon Mama. Um, I didn't get a great impression. I felt like she strawmanned me, and I felt like she was always interrupting me, right? Um, and when I and the thing is, later on, I ended up becoming friends with Demon Mama. Um, Ironically, out of that, and I rewatched that video of that debate, and in reality, all everyone on that panel was interrupting me constantly. But the one that bothered me, the one that stuck in my mind, was when another woman was doing it.
Mm.
And I found that really interesting. So, I don't know, I think, like, it's in general I don't think it's a problem just with, like, dudes doing it. Um, I think we just have, like, these expectations on how women are supposed to speak and how long we often think that they're speaking longer for than when they really have, though this time I'm actually talking for a long time. Um, so, I don't know. I think it's a mixed bag.
Okay. A fanatic. Do you think you could turn on your camera? You think that'd be
Oh, of course, got you.
yeah,
No
yeah.
problem.
Okay. Because that thing about all right, maybe I'll have to save that for a second. But like talking about the length of time for women speaking, oh, that's gonna be interesting. So, let me
Mhm.
put you all on screen now. Okay. And there's me. Hooray. Okay, so before I dig into that, I want to get Fanatic's general thoughts. Go ahead, Fanatic.
Sure. So I think there's this thing that happens where very often, like in general, Twitch is like a super duper competitive space. And in a super duper competitive space, people are going to be intentionally catty. They're going to be like very, very aggressive. They're going to be interrupting. They're not going to give you as much time to speak. They're really not going to like go out of the way to let you get a word in edgewise. It's just not the way people function. So with that being said, I think very often like we'll put this idea out there that like people are disrespecting women per se, but in reality, unless you're particularly aggressive, you're not going to get a word in edgewise. And it's not that they're being necessarily disrespectful to women in particular, it's that they have a standard level of aggression, and only the people who are willing to match that level of aggression are going to be able to compete in these spaces. And so then there are plenty of women who I think naturally are just significantly more agreeable. I think in general, more women are agreeable than men are. And I think that sort of aggressiveness, that agreeableness will be taken advantage of in the face of pure aggression, where someone's used to dealing with like debate bro online nonsense. And so I don't think that
Could
women are
you
treated
speak
worse.
up? You're a little quiet. Or get closer to the mic.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I don't think women are necessarily being treated worse. I don't think that's the case. I think women are being treated the same. I just think that in reality, that women are less are more agreeable, and so if they're not aggressive, then they're going to be talked over.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of truth in that too. That this space privileges a certain type of communication style,
Mm-hmm.
and I've seen this a lot on when I had the Amazon Lily panel, which was are all a women panel, and that you would see some individuals would come on and they wanted to participate, right? And this is a space where it's just like women, right? And me, right? But like they wanted to participate, but they were unable to because their communication style just did not lend itself to this medium, to this platform. And it's not that it's not any knock on them, but like either you learn to okay, maybe I'm bouncing around here because I'm not exactly sure how I want
I
to
feel like
tackle
you
this.
want to say something and you're afraid. You're a little anxious. So that's it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm trying to figure out the best way of saying it, because should we be asking these women to adjust themselves, right?
Yes.
Or
Yep.
should we try to understand that there's not everyone's going to be able to like bring it to that level, especially not initially, right? Like if you've been socialized the entire time to be more agreeable, as you said, fanatic, right? Then maybe we should try to make it so that, especially when a new person is here, that we're a bit more understanding, try to open up a bit more space for them to talk and operate, and then maybe they can acclimate themselves later on, right, to the group and to how everyone else is acting. Does that make sense?
Maybe so. You can have like women light competitions, or women light like whatever, and then like have people talk in those spaces, and eventually like maybe to do with more disagreeable women in those kind of like competitive spaces before they like can graduate to dealing with dudes. I mean that's the only way I can
No,
think
fuck
of.
that.
Yeah, right. It sounds like an
What
awful
I
idea
want,
for so many reasons.
yeah, what I
Agreeableness
want
and
is
competition don't mix. Go ahead.
I think it's totally fair to expect some things of women too, right? And I actually think there are lots and lots of women who are willing to step up and be more assertive and be a little more loud and be more aggressive. The problem is that they get punished for it. And so I just think that the focus should be like just think of like the female debaters that are known to be like the most aggressive, right? Demon Mama, Maddie, I don't know, like maybe you could just like anyone I think has been like very villainized. And so like and I was trying to explore this myself because again, I think women can be guilty of this. Any gender can be guilty of this because we're all raised in this society, right? Is that like I've tried to be critical of myself of why it bothers me more, right? When a woman yells at me or is more condescending or when I'm so used to it from a dude, right? Um, and so I just think everyone has a part to play to be like a little more self-critical on whether or not they're actually treating, both instances like equally. But I think that's the answer. I don't think the answer is like, let's just treat women with kid gloves.
Right.
And it's, I do think there's a good argument that the platform as a whole needs to be a little more, responsible with their language and maybe a little less yelly, but that's not really a gendered issue to me.
For
So
sure.
it's total to me. It's totally fair to kind of expect women to at least play some kind of role because there are tons of aggressive, assertive women. I know that women as a whole are trained to be and we're socialized to be more. What was the term you used?
Agreeable?
Agreeable.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're totally right. I'm definitely one of them. But if you're in the right environment, and I have been in environments like that, it like everyone has like their inner debate lord and it comes out. And we just want to kind of create that right environment and it's entertaining. So then everyone ends up winning. But I definitely don't think the right answer is to go about it to just like suddenly start accusing whenever someone speaks in a condescending way to a girl, just immediately be like, okay, that's anti-fem, you know? two women you were yelling at. Like, that's a bit extreme.
Sure. Well, what I would say is two things. One, like just to make it crystal clear, that was the point that I was getting at. That it's literally that's never going to be a
Hmm.
functional thing. Like to make it like we're like infantilizing women or like creating some sort of specific women's space and then like hoping that they eventually like develop the traits necessary to compete with men. I think that's like ridiculous. I think that's infantilizing in a way, and I don't think it's really like conducive
Lean into your
to
mic a
like
little bit
actually
more.
sorry, I don't think it's conducive to being like successful on this platform. There's a few reasons for that. One, competition and agreeableness don't mix. Like competition like inherently makes you more means that you're going to be more aggressive, less agreeable, like literally fighting and contending for your space. That's the polar opposite of agreeableness. And panels are going to be like inherently competitive, right? Because there's 8 people trying to talk and get their point across within a limited amount of time. So that means like they're naturally going to be like over speaking each other, trying to get in their words edgewise. Some people just want to talk more than others, so then that's going to be problematic if it's not like curtailed. And most people aren't going to regulate themselves. So with that being said, like these are traits that are not like we see the same thing happening in like corporate America where like there's this idea of like, hey, there are women now in these spaces and like some of their like agreeableness can be get in the way of their success when it comes to like promotions and things
Hmm.
like that. I don't think you modify the culture to be able to say let's make it more agreeable or make it to where agreeableness doesn't matter. Instead, it's like this is an area that's dominated by men, and these manly traits tend to be more successful in these venues. So you had probably better adapt in some ways, or else you'll be left behind. And it's not sexist to say that. Like this is just the the inclinations that are more associated with these different sexes. So the idea becomes, um, no, I don't think we modify our behavior because our behavior is an adaptation to the environment as it stands, right? Like that's what we are doing. We're adapting to an environment to become something or to function in a way that'll yield us the most success. So we shouldn't throw that away in order to coddle women. I think that would not be good.
Do you,
Yeah, I just think that it's yeah, it takes two to tango with that. Like people, there's multiple parts that people have to play in this. And yeah, like I agree with you that women, I guess, should be a little less agreeable like on these panels, but I know there are tons of women that have been that want to be. Um and like they would prefer to be because it's more fun for them, it's more entertaining for an audience. And but they get so punished for it, so immensely punished for it. Um, and like that, I don't know. So I mean, someone could respond and say like, oh, maybe women are being a little more sensitive than dudes are because someone like Vosh and Destiny get punished a lot. But I really think the standard's way lower. Um, you see someone like like the way I saw Maddie get treated. So she made like some kind of mistake with Destiny, and she just gets like completely shit on. And tons of male streamers who have made mistakes like that, and like no one, um people, they get so pissed off. Like there's a subtle, I mean, you saw it even the way people treated Hillary Clinton, and I'm probably gonna really piss off people here, but I really think that the way a lot of people treated Hillary Clinton, especially when they said that she was like criticizing her policies or like sketchy things with her like financial situation, like all that, totally fine, right? But a lot of people would just say there's just something about her that's unlikable. And women would say that too, right? But when you really think about it, like the stuff she was doing, the way she was talking was not that different than a dude. We have different unconscious expectations of how women should speak, and it freaks us out when they don't.
yeah. So this thing about women being punished. So my friend Joe, that's really serious. So not Joe Lewis, but Joe that's really serious, a female. Um, she has talked about this a lot, and I've seen it here on my panels as well. That like the audience can just go like certain members of the audience just go hard on them, it's crazy. And I don't think it's everyone. I don't think it's widespread, but I think the people who do have that reactions are very vocal about it, and so it gives the impression uh, that you are not wanted in a space. That um, if you make a mistake, um, or if you are inarticulate, that um, that the consequences will be severe. That uh, and more than that, like other women viewing this, right? So like not just the woman who's experiencing it, but women who are viewing this from the audience perspective, right? Like I imagine they see these things too and have similar reactions. Like okay, like I, like if you spend enough time in Twitch chat, you'll see how people react to different individuals, and if you're noticing a pattern that women have this uh, 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 get this reaction that men generally don't get, and that's going to filter out people who might otherwise have wanted to join in, right?
But Prime, can I say something really quick?
Okay.
I don't think in most of these cases, I don't think that it's people going harder on women than they would be going on anyone else. I think what ends up happening is in a lot of these places, it's a kind of a dog eat dog world, and um, agreeableness is something that's like a weakness and like in this kind of way, right? Like in a competitive environment. So then if a woman is like in this space and she's being like really passive and really whatever, then in those cases, then those people are going to probably respond like, oh, hey, I see a weakness and I'm going to jump on that, right? Like, and that's what ends up happening. It's not necessarily that people are like unfairly treating women differently. It's that this is like they see it. They're predators and they see like, man, like she's gonna let me talk over her, so I'm gonna do that. But they would do that to a soft dude the exact same
No,
way.
no. So I'm talking about something different than what you're referring to there, right? And I see your point on the agreeableness. What I'm talking about is the audience's reaction here, because Eris was talking about women being punished,
Anytime I
right?
talk in your channel, people are going ham on me, like all the time. And like the same thing happened with like Destiny's stream. Like they still call me a racist to this day, right? Or let's look at like Maddie Cates. I don't. I'm sorry. I'm saying it. I don't care. I genuinely believe, like based off of the evidence that I looked at, that she was like faking those death threats, and like there was all of these things that she carried herself really poorly in a bunch of these situations. I don't think it had anything to do with because she's a woman. Like we see DGG go after anybody. Like the DGG in general is just really aggressive to anybody that goes against Destiny. It's a hive mind. So I think the idea becomes like, no, like what she ends up doing, like they're going to criticize you for your behavior. I think her behavior was pretty freaking ridiculous in some of those situations. Like I
You know what I
don't.
gotta say? I gotta say something. I don't know if this is gonna get me in trouble,
Uh oh.
right?
Uh oh.
But just since this lefties, we all love our lived experiences, but my lived experience on Twitch as a streamer, see, I've been treated so much more badly by other women on this platform. Like, that's just I don't know, like, if it's some competition thing, or like what it's about. I mean, you could probably analyze it to the end about women are socialized to compete with one another and all that stuff, but you could say the same thing about dudes. I just like I the first person who started like this hate campaign against me was a woman. I don't think I think there was only one other woman that congratulated me on getting partner like right away. Like a lot of I don't know, like I didn't I got treated pretty pretty badly by a lot of them. So I my experience has been so like mixed. But I also might have a very different experience than the average woman because I'm not showing my real face. Like, I hate to break it to people, this is a facade.
Is it what?
So I wonder if like I kind of get to skip the line of like a lot of shit that a lot of women deal with because of that from other dudes, because dudes tend to be a little more appearance focused. But I don't know. I have no clue.
Um.
I
Yeah.
feel like I sound like one of those. I'm not like other girls. I was like, oh no.
No, no.
That's just been my experience.
I hate the way you say Ben. I hate it.
I'm sorry, it's Canada.
I'd
We
say
say like if you say bin, how do you know if you're talking about a garbage bin or not? Like it's very confusing.
I hate you.
You have to say bean.
I hate her, but I love her. No, but yeah, I do. I don't know. I think man, it's so crazy because again, all of these experiences are just common experiences to Twitch. We know Twitch chat is like toxic. Like we've known that forever. It's like this isn't a Maddie Cakes thing. Like this isn't like something about her. And then yeah, I'm just so I guess you'd have to show me because again, I see it all the time. Like I went to what's that one dude? Actual Justice Grifter. Like I went to his having a debate with him and then like just getting harassed by his chat. I didn't think like, oh man, this is because I'm black. I'm just like, no, they're harassing me because they're a hive mind. Like they respect their dude and I went against their dude, right? Or like when like I said, when in the past when like I've had like beef with like Destiny or we've like debated things, like people have like gone really, really hard on me. Or like Hassan and Destiny's beef, like we know how like much those two have gone at it, right? And it's like they're not treating Maddie any different than literally any other person that has ever gone against Destiny. Like that's just who they are. They're gonna support their dude. That's their hometown hero. So anytime somebody's speaking against that, it's like, oh no, you're coming for our guy. We gotta get you, right? So the only way that this thing gets addressed is if we decide like we're gonna do some sort of coddling thing, right? Where it's like, no, we're gonna stand up for Maddie. We're gonna stand up for these women in these scenarios, and for getting treated the exact same way that men are getting treated. Like you would have to show me something where something they're doing specifically against these women is like exaggerated. Because again, you you got when you got partner Prime, there was somebody, I don't even want to say his name, that was literally like implying that you only got it because you were black and making black jokes and nonsense. Like that was something that happened. Like people are gonna just hate on people who succeed. That's just a thing. This isn't a woman thing. You gotta show me this environment is toxic to everyone, right? So you had recently everybody tripping about hate raids and the hate raids against black people, da 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 da. Then it was like, yeah, but trans people get treated poorly too. Yeah, but women are getting treated poorly too. And it's like, wait, what dude isn't treated poorly? Like Destiny
Are you
gets hate
saying that
rated.
the answer is we all have to just be nicer to each other?
I mean, sure, but it ain't gonna happen. We already know what this environment is. Like, Destiny had to switch his Twitter account like how many different times because he just got banned on a regular basis, right? Everybody knows that, like Rob Noor is mentally deficient, right? Like we all know this. Like, when are we gonna like? This is just part of. Come on, like this isn't a woman thing. That's what I someone has to show me how to
I feel
woman
like
thing.
Prime is screaming on the inside. Like I can
I'm
see your
sorry.
face.
Yeah, he is. Go ahead.
Sorry.
What's good, Prime? Let me know.
Yeah.
All right. So what I'm doing, because I've had a lot of conversations with her, I'm relating Joe, the Silly Cirrus, experiences, and this is why I would love to have her. This was impromptu. I would love to have her on a conversation with this, and maybe with you as well, there, Fanatic, to talk about this. So you can hear from her, because all I can do is give it to you secondhand.
Well, she has a very unique experience, right? Because she is the intersection of being a woman and being very beautiful and blonde, right? And that combination, I feel like it's gonna, and especially when people rarely see like a blonde bombshell like talking that at that level about philosophy. So I think sometimes and so she does get like tons of shit about it, and I think she handles it incredibly effectively. But yeah, it's hard to know does that mean it's like a sexist thing? I guess it kind of does, but I do think there's like an intersection
Well, I
there.
mean, but yeah, but then it would definitely be a sexist thing then. Like it's like not. It's not won't be the question if that was the case. If you're saying that it's the fact that she's at that intersection of being, attractive, classically attractive, and
Mhm.
talking about those things. Like if that's the case, right? If that's actually happening, well, then yeah, that's that's definitely sexism. That like her appearance and her gender should have no bearing, right? If she has a shitty argument, well, then you can call her out on that specifically, but just the same way you do everyone else.
Okay,
So
have
like
you ever
I
heard of
would
the
love to
concept
talk to her.
of pretty privilege?
privilege.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so um, I mean I agree with pretty privilege, but I also think it's like a double-edged sword, right? Like where people um discount your accomplishments and look down at you because of that.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be a bit worse because you're a girl, but I think that it often applies to dudes too.
No, I mean, I
Um,
mean, I know. I mean,
yeah,
I
I'm sure
know.
you've experienced it on a regular basis. So so like yeah, it's hard to know like how much of it is being a woman, but I don't know.
But
I feel like a total bitch complaining about this shit.
I think I don't know. I feel like that level of pretty privilege is really, or that in this case is not a privilege, like it's like a detriment. That is really applied to men. That you can have an extremely handsome man, and like people will simply be drawn to them, more likely to listen to them, because they are just like a gorgeous 10 out of 10 Chad, right? I think it.
Twitch getting taken over by titty streamers. Like they were playing video games, but like literally there were points where they had it inverted.
They
where
weren't.
the
You know
camera
what,
was a
Fanatic?
small section, and that was like
Fanatic,
No.
all the top streamers are technically dudes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Eris hit the nail on the head. The top streamers are guys, and they can get so much, like the highest streamers, right? They get so much more than quote unquote titty stream hot tub streamers. They can get so much more than them. So like
one of the biggest streamers in the entire platform, wasn't she?
Who? What?
Amaranth, wasn't she?
Yeah.
No,
literally
she's
one
not.
of the.
It's as a woman on Twitch, it's easier to get noticed. It's hard to get to like the top end, you know?
But for literally 3 weeks straight, she was literally the #1 streamer, wasn't she?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. Like
she breaks about like what 15K or something.
Yeah, 15.
I mean, it's a lot, right? Don't get me wrong.
But there are others who are much higher than her.
Streamers.
Yeah, like in playing games and like in just chatting, she might dominate.
I wish I had the numbers. I wish I had the numbers in front of me.
Yeah, and just chatting, I think she dominates. But Hassan can beat her, even if she's like hot tubbing. Hassan can beat her. I know that. So yeah,
I definitely don't think a woman could get away with the shit that Hassan gets away with. And good on him for getting away. I like Hassan, right? It's just yeah, like I don't think, especially like someone that's super good looking, I guess like stereotypically good looking and talking about politics. I do think that a woman would have a harder time doing that at a very high level. Maybe they would have an easier time getting noticed, right? And getting to like a mid level, but to like the top level. But then it's like, I don't know. It feels weird complaining about that because it's like whether you're earning $1 million a year versus 10 million. So
I don't know, man, because I just look at first off, like the number of dudes that are just I don't know. I guess maybe because they stand out because of the fact that like there weren't a lot of them. I'm guessing there has to be something to it, but there was a humongous amount of like women that were like incredibly successful on this platform that were doing like the titty streaming thing, and like I again maybe it's just selection bias in my brain.
But it's not a humongous amount though. It's actually not a humongous amount. There's a few. There's a handful. I gave an example. Previous, her name I had to look it up. It's on my Discord. But there's a woman who I had run into. She when she was smaller, right? She was just getting started out. She like started out in January, maybe, right? But like she's new. She's in the case she's new. She's been on here only for a few months. And she was doing like about 100, 150, like 200, right? And then she did a hot tub stream, and she got like, 2,000. It was like a 10 times multiplier, just doing a hot tub stream. It was just huge. But like she was one of the exceptions. There were others who tried that and who did not succeed. Just putting yourself in a hot tub does not guarantee you success, especially not on that level. Like not every woman gets that. Like other women have tried. I for research purposes, I looked into that category, and there was more women, right? Other than Amaranth, other than that woman, was it Faith or something? I think, who was like new and just like shot up through hot tub streaming. Like there's a few of them who have succeeded that way, but not all of them do that. So like it's not a guarantee of success, and like you can get, as a man, you can get more success through like gaming or through anything else, by doing anything else but showing your body. So I think what Eris is trying to get to, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Eris, is that like for women, like it's a great way to like to simply be attractive on stream is a great way to get followers. I think was it Amy C3 has complained about this too. She's talked about like, well, I get followers all the time, but my stream doesn't necessarily grow. So guys, and I've done this too. I'm gonna call myself out. You're like scrolling through Twitch, right? And you're like, holy crap, she is super cute. Let me click on this thing. Check it out for a little bit. All right, that was good. I'll give her a follow. But do you necessarily come back to that stream? Do you necessarily engage with their content afterwards? Right? Like if I'm on a stream with an attractive woman, her follows are going off constantly. Right? If you have usually the false notifications going off constantly. But that doesn't mean that her concurrent viewership will necessarily grow commensurate to that. Like content matters. Content actually does matter there, right? To actually be able to grow that audience. So it's good for getting attention, but it's not necessarily good for growing. No, and talking about that woman that I told you about, like that 10 times multiplier woman, like when she's not hot tubbing, then her audience goes right back down. So
but that happens for any streamer when you do something like when I play video games, my viewers go like completely.
That's just chatting. Well, yeah, that's how just chatting works. Just chatting is more popular.
No, not just chatting. Like League of Legends streamers.
No, it's just whenever you do something that's different than what your audience initially came there for, your viewer drops are like your views are going to drop a bit.
But yeah,
not just a bit. I started out as a fighting game player streamer. Like was averaging ludicrous. Well, I can't say ludicrous, but at the time when what Twitch was, it was like really stupidly high. And the second I started playing League of Legends, those numbers completely tanked because the players didn't want to watch me play League of Legends. So yeah, that is the condition. People want to follow you. I got a buddy who streams Dead by Daylight regularly. The second he starts playing like literally anything else, then the people don't want to watch anymore. And it was just like, man, like, and it sucks because now you're kind of stuck in a position where you're playing a game that you don't even really want to play anymore. Like that's just part of the thing. You do get locked in. People expect something from you. Like how, yeah. So I don't know. I think,
to be honest, I don't. We're always talking about sexism on Twitch, but like, I don't know. Part of me thinks it's like not really that much of an issue, like in comparison with like the other bigger things. Like, anyone I know that's like black and a woman gets treated worse for being black than for the woman part. I personally feel like I've received way more anti-Semitism than sexism on this platform. It just feels like there's other issues, and I don't know why this one keeps coming up and up again. And I suspect I know why, and it's because people want more women on panels, and they're wondering why there aren't a lot of women on panels. But at the end of the day, like Twitch is going to reflect society, and we live in a society that's constantly the way we raise women is to not value politics and to not be assertive and to not enjoy these types of spaces. So it's almost like we're expecting too much of Twitch and too much of panel hosts and stuff to like expect them to suddenly like fix this huge problem. When in reality, I mean, this, Prime, it's really challenging to get women on panels, right? It's challenging to find them. It's like hunting for talent. And like, it's just, I don't know, it just feels a little unfair.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that's a good point. I think panels are very visible. I think that's actually a really interesting point because panels are very visible representation of like demographics, right? Like because you see, like you can compare, see who's there, right? You can see like, well, are there African Americans? Are there Asian Americans or Asian people of Asian descent, African descent, because they may not be Americans, but America is the center of the world. And you can see if there's how many men versus women. You see trans individuals, right? You can just like do like a tiny survey right there. And so when you're consistently not seeing women, it doesn't even mean that there's not women on Twitch politics. They're there, right? There are others who are there who don't necessarily like do the panel circuit, but like it seems to the viewer that women simply are not involved and they aren't welcome. One, it could be those other women don't want to be involved with the panels. Like there's some women I've gone to, they just don't want to be involved for whatever reason. It's maybe not they have a problem with panels. They're just like, I want to do a solo thing. Not really interested in interacting with like the wider Twitch politics environment, right? Others are like, I feel like I'm not aggressive enough, right? Or I don't have the confidence to do that, right? I don't want the backlash because I've seen like they have seen like what's it like when you're losing and they don't want to be on the losing end, right? So there could be a number of reasons why a woman doesn't want to be a part of the space. But when you're looking as an audience member, when you're just looking at the screen, you're like, well, I just don't see women included. My response to that, my response is always is that if you think your voice, right, is not being represented, your perspective, then it's got to be you who gets involved. You audience members, yes, you at home, you've got to do it. No one else can do it for you, right? Like you're expecting, they'll say like, I see this in chat, Prime, why don't you have more women or trans individuals, right? Or like for this particular discussion, I can't find it. I would love to have them. I can't find any. Are you or a woman or a trans female, maybe, if we're talking about the trans issue? Are you a trans individual who wants to be a part of this conversation? Hop on. We'd love to have you. We'd love to talk to you. But like, you all are simply assuming that it's just so easy. I can equally just grab these individuals, right? And their presence or lack thereof is indicative of how I want to design these things. And it's not. It's just like, who shows up? Someone told me, I was having a conversation with someone offline, right? And they presume that me as a streamer, how I look at other people is in terms of like their political alignments, right? In Twitch politics. And I think that's how a lot of people look at them, like their political alignments. Like, are you a lefty? Are you conservative? Libertarian or whatnot, right? And then sort them through that. That's like, a consequence of the job. For me, it's less about that. It's more about fucking availability and reliability, because I put these things together. And like, there are some people like Fanatic, extremely reliable, right? So great. Like other people, less so. And
sorry.
And that's how I sort them. Who can I grab? And there are a lot of, and as of late, there are a lot of men who I can reliably grab at a moment's notice. I'm putting something together. I can reach out to these guys, and they're there, right? And then we're making content. We're moving along, right? It's not that, I'm Prime is trying to keep women out of this, right? Or he has some sort of bias against them. No, I don't have as many women that I can just call on.
The fact that you've given me so many chances, like I really think that I mean, to this day I get invited on panels like all the time. And I am so unreliable with that stuff because of my mental health, right? So it's like, and it still shocks me that people still invite me. And so at this point I've started just telling people like, I can't, because I'm probably not going to be reliable, and I'm going to dish, and I'm going to feel really, really bad. And it's going to be really shitty. So it's like, I don't know. I do think that panel hosts on average are really trying to get women on. The issue, I guess, is more so what happens once the women are on. But just in general, you're picking from a smaller pool. And when you're picking from a smaller pool, things are just going to be more tough, right? You're going to have less quality choices within a smaller pool, right, than you would in a larger pool. Not saying women are lesser quality. It's just like, that's just how math works.
Mm-hmm.
You have less choice. So it's just, I feel like we're just asking panel hosts to like answer for this huge problem that is probably going to be fixed over time. But you can't just fix it like in a day and expect panel hosts to somehow not reflect society whatsoever and be like magicians.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, I'm like, just Amazon Lily when that was happening. It was much smaller, but because like Fanatic said previously, right? Like this space, like it requires one aggressiveness, but beyond that, it requires people who are just willing to talk. Not everyone is. Some people clam up, like on their own streams, like if they're a streamer themselves, in their own streams, they can be talkative, they can be active, they can be engaging, but then they get into a panel space and then that disappears, and then they're quiet, and they're like, oh, and then sometimes they'll say like, oh, I agree with everything that was just said. I don't have nothing else to add. I've seen that, and it fucking kills me. What are you even here for then? Like, if you're just gonna agree with everyone and you have nothing else to add, no unique perspective, then why would I have you here? But then if I throw that person out, and I do throw those people out because at some point I decided that like I don't even care about my philosophy at first was just like getting bodies on the screen, right? But then it's no, I need quality individuals. And so if you aren't going to actually share your perspective, and be interesting and engaging, even if you're softer speaking, right? At that part, I can work with you. But if you're not gonna give your opinion, then that's the point. There's no point. And this is true for men as well. This is not just a female thing. This is definitely true for men as well. But like, but when you're working with a smaller pool of individuals, then it makes it very difficult to consistently have adequate, and whatever adequate means here, a women representation. It makes it extremely difficult.
Well, of course, and I think, and it also has to do with the viewership because Twitch viewership is still like super duper 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 male, right? And like, so like for me, whenever I've like considered myself, like when it comes to like viewership for like black streamers, I've never looked at it as a racist thing in any capacity, right? I've always recognized that like in reality, Twitch is a white space. Like it just is predominantly white space. And white people want to watch white people because white people get white people. Like their humor is more going to align with white people. And it's not like a matter of like someone intentionally or just like having some sort of cognitive bias or anything like that. There's no harm like that's coming from like people's intention or even subconscious. It's just people tend to want to watch people that are more like them. I looked at the people who I'm subscribed to, just like mostly niggas. Like I look at the people, it's just whatever. So with all that being said, in the same sense, if it's mostly dudes, like when it comes to like steady content where they feel like, oh man, it's going to be a good representation of how I think and who I am and so on and so forth, it's going to be mostly men. Like, so that's what people are going to watch. Now you're going to have,
That makes a lot of sense. I only subscribe to really, really smart people.
see, makes all the sense in the world. Well, I want to make jokes, but I'm not gonna because I got bad jokes. But I'm gonna say, like, yeah, like that's who we subscribe to that. Like, we subscribe to people that we more closely identify with. So I think in the same sense, like, it's when it comes to the women thing, like, it's super male dominated space. Like, and I'm gonna say, like, if we look like just by the numbers, like the vast majority of competitive gamers are men. Like the vast majority of successful competitive gamers are men. Like the best competitive gamers, the ones that are like at the top level are mostly men. Like in the vast majority of games, there are outliers, but the vast majority of them are men. Twitch was primarily a gaming website, so it catered more towards women, towards men because competitiveness is more catered towards men. Like so, like again, these things aren't like these aren't hard line. Like you can obviously have outliers. But like so like I don't know. Again, I would love to have this conversation with the Silly Serious because for me, I've been on this space for God knows how long, like literally longer than like almost everybody on this dang platform. And I feel like I've seen it all, and I don't think that like there's anything that's specific that's going to be happening to her that she can say, well, this is happening to me and it's not happening to anyone else. Like it's a competitive, toxic environment. The only thing that maybe she might get that other people don't get, they might ask her to show like they show her titties or something. Like she might get that. She might get sexual aggression specifically, more so. But
Okay,
like
but also
outside of
there's
like her
another
like
side to
face.
this, right? I don't know if Joe's gonna admit this, right? But it's easier as a woman to talk about like sexism that you're dealing with than the other thing that I was saying, like the other side of the coin of pretty privilege, where like pretty, I don't know what I want to call it, like pretty discrimination. Because she's gonna look like a total self-important,
Yeah.
no, like if she starts complaining about that,
Yeah.
right? And so like, so of course she's gonna focus more on the woman thing, because it's kind of so awkward to talk about. But I do, but I'll do it for her. That I do think like a lot of the shit that she gets is because she's like very classically attractive. So that's so that's my opinion.
No,
On that one.
you're touched. I do it. I'm gonna speak for a woman. I'll do it. But yeah, that's the thing. That it looks as if, well, like I am amazing, right? And because of that, like these are the things I have to deal with. Like, ugh, right? And that I actually read an article.
I feel like I've got this beautiful blonde hair, and I'm incredibly smart, and people are just not used to like hearing all of that all together. And I just have these gorgeous eyes, and people get lost in them, and then they realize they can't get me because I'm totally out of the league. And it's just, and then they shit on me, and I know that that's the real reason why.
I mean, it was not a great Australian accent, but it was entertaining Australian accent. So thank you for that.
I think it was top tier. Okay.
It started off amazing.
Yeah, it kind of like went off the cliff. Yeah. But no,
that was all my accents.
And I'll yell at Joe too. This when she's doing accents as well. Like everything, eventually, if you keep her talking long enough, it'll turn Irish. Everything that she does, it turns Irish. That's great. Yeah, you're talking about an absolutely real phenomenon here. That it looks at like because people look at being attractive as an unqualified benefit because from the outside it certainly seems like it, right? And this is what Fanatiq was getting to, right? Like this is what you were like was implied, that like these attractive women like have an unqualified benefit of being attractive, which is why they're getting all this attention, in these hot tub streams. And there is a benefit because you like for the right woman, with the right setup and all that stuff and the content, yes, they can grow their streams so fast. So fast. Unbelievable. And like it sucks as the as a guy who's trying his best out here to make good content for everyone, not being able to grow that fast. It sucks, but like I do recognize that there are detriments to these things, right? So there's a detriment to my good friend Joe, this is serious, for that people don't take her seriously. Right? She's a brilliant individual. Talk to her 2 minutes, you'll figure that out, right? But like some people have difficult looking past like her exterior.
I've never witnessed that. I've always seen people
do it all the time.
More dignity than they do most streamers. Like that's just what I've always seen. It seems like people typically respect her, but like yes, you're gonna have haters. Like,
I think he's talking about like audience, like random types, right?
But I hate making prescriptions about random types on the internet because we know how psycho and how disparate random types can be. Like, you're going to get that. If you really can't handle it, and I'm not saying that she's saying that she can't handle it, but like this is just part of internet culture. Like, you're gonna get these psychos on the internet that are just gonna find, like, that are gonna go out of their way to take a dump on you. Like, we see this all the time, like, where, like, oh my gosh, there were these examples where, like, there was these literal top of the line pianists. And they were, like, putting their videos on YouTube, and they were, like, demonstrating, like, hey, guess what? Watch this. This is, like, literally world-class, some of the best you'll ever hear in your entire lifetime. And watch these idiot YouTube people, because they didn't attach the name to it. Watch them just, start, like, attacking, like, their ability. And lo and behold, it's like, I don't know. It seemed like you were kind of like not really consistent with the original. And it's just like, what the freak are you talking about? It's because people in reality, their goal on the internet is to complain. So it's not like I need to see it.
Are you saying that the amount of negativity that any individual person is like overall, if you average it out, right, that it's equal, it's simply that it's expressed differently, right? And so like haters are gonna hate, right? So like haters are gonna hate on me and possibly you just for being black, right? Haters are gonna hate on Demon Mama for being trans, right? And haters are gonna hate Joe for having the exterior that she has. So
And haters are gonna hate on Republicans for being Republican in this space.
no, that makes sense. No, that makes sense.
do.
And
No,
people are
no.
very discriminatory because I'm a cartoon.
I was gonna say that, and I know for a fact that Eris gets a lot of hate for doing the VTuber thing, right? Like that's it's just going to happen. People are going to hate on literally anything that you can do.
Yeah. But so I think, and okay, I'm going out on a ledge again. And if my friend Jill, this Lucius, ever watches this, then I'm sorry if I'm not getting your perspective across clearly. But I think the response would be that it's that they get that negativity plus, right? They get like based on
How would you quantify that? What is she using? How
I
does she know
I don't know
Eris
that
immediately?
I'll have to leave up to her how exactly how she quantifies it, right? But okay, and understand this though, even if let's say that Joe and others who have talked about this, right? Like Amy C3, she's talked about this. Also another person who's conventionally attractive, and I'm a little uncomfortable. I generally don't like talk about a woman's attractiveness on stream. Like I don't do that. I'll talk about a man's attractiveness. This is a discrimination for me. I talk about a man's attractiveness, but I won't talk about a woman's. I make a point not to do that. So I'm trying to avoid it, but it's what we're talking about here. So it is what it is.
All right, just send me pictures and I'll objectify them for you so I can get away with it.
Thank you. Thanks for having my back on that one.
You're always.
Yeah. So maybe they are wrong. Maybe they're blowing out of proportion. But like it's a feeling that they're having, right? Like whether it's true or not, it's affecting their well-being and their willingness to be a part of this platform. And it's not just them. So if that's the case, right? Let's say that it's everything that you said, Fanatic. That it's just the way it is. Haters are gonna hate, and it's more or less equal. It's just it looks differently depending on the person. Even if that's the case, it still creates an unwelcoming environment. And then we're living with the consequences of just simply less women doing this thing here.
But Twitch is an unwelcoming environment to everyone.
Yeah.
Who feels like Twitch is like such a welcoming, happy place where it's just like, oh man, people are just really happy to see you on here. For the most part, it's pretty hunky dory. People kind of respect
I get
you.
that, but I also think it's fair. We would never be able to solve any problem if we just said, well, like,
shit happens.
Everyone gets violence, right? Like we got to start somewhere.
But
I don't think
I'm not against
women on
starting anywhere.
Twitch thing
I'm
is
just
the right
saying.
one, but
I'm saying this is just I'm not the thing is I'm not making a prescription about how we solve a problem. What I'm saying is I'm just pushing back against the notion that there is a problem that is specifically germane to women. I don't think that there is a problem that someone could show me that isn't equally applied to literally everyone else. I don't think the silly serious is experiencing something specific that no one else is getting. That's what I'm saying. Again, now if we want to just talk about prescriptions on how to make Twitch in general a better place, we can do that. But I don't I think the context of trying to talk about Twitch in general being a better place for women, we need to I would say we need to demonstrate that Twitch is a worse place for women than it actually is. Because I don't think that it's particularly bad towards women.
Okay. We'll need to have Joe on to provide this conversation. We reference her a lot, so we're definitely going to have that conversation at some point in the future, and we'll see if we can set that up. So that's a separate thing. Yeah, it's hard for me because I'm not a woman, so I'm just doing the best I can to relate what I've heard and what I've seen. I don't know. It's so okay. Moving away from the context of a woman, though, so I guess I can speak to my own experiences. like, and my own experiences are a bit more limited than others because I don't engage in social media like everyone else does. So I think part of this is being like exposed to social media and like the incredible hate there. So I don't deal with that. I completely ignore you guys. If you guys want to hide something from me, put it on Twitter. I will not find it if it's on Twitter because I don't give a shit. Fuck you. Any which way. So my experience mostly comes from my Twitch chat and what I see from there. And like the trolls that come through and like how they engage with me. And they engage with me saying that I have terrible ideas, which is what everyone would get, right? But they also engage with me saying, you know, um, I'm, I'm an N-word, and I need to get off this platform, right? And I guess it's tough to see outside of my own perspective because I'm not a white male, so I guess it's more difficult for me to gauge this. But from what I've heard from white men, like it seems like they don't get this level of hate. It like, I mean, like their chat can get combative with them, but I just don't see that there's anything comparable to that. So yeah, and then of course when that hate is on an accident, happens within a category that you can't control, right? Like you can control, like you can like get better at your arguments, but you can't be better at like being not black, right? You can't be better at being not a woman. Oh, never mind. For the purposes of the conversation, you generally can't change that. But so so when someone criticizes you on that, I think it might just sting more. You know, it might have more of the a mental cost, an emotional cost to that. And maybe that's what they're registering. So I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure how much more we can go. We have to invite more people into this and have a discussion on this thing. I think it's an interesting conversation. I want to create a space where we have more women. I definitely do. I mean, look, for a year I ran Amazon Lily, a year plus doing that for exactly this purpose. I definitely want to do this, but maybe I'm going about it wrong. Maybe, and maybe, I don't know. When you join my Discord server, you have to click through, uh, like, um, like a, I was like, there's a word for it, but like an agreement, basically, right? To like our set of rules, and one of the things it says is that like you accept that this is not a safe space. This is a safe space for you, but not your ideas. I do that. Um, and that happened after the whole situation with my former producer, the first time people tried to cancel me, because we had this conversation about women. So I yeah, I'm trying to design the space, but I think there's a limits to that. What Fanatic was trying to get to, that this space is what it is. So I don't know. All right, I think we've covered it.
I'm gonna hop off for now. But yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for
Really,
thanks for
really
coming in.
appreciate
We
it.
definitely appreciate your perspective on this. Have a
Thanks.
good one.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good chilling with you, Eris, as always.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't know. I think this is a tough conversation, and I think this is a conversation we often have between men. I appreciate what Eris. I appreciate what Eris was saying, because she brought a different angle to this, right? So that was great. Okay, there's one other person who wants to jump in on this. Like, do you what's your feeling here? Do you want to, or do you have to go? No.
I'm good.
All right, so I'll pull this person in. and I'm not sure how long we'll continue. But, hey, Janie.
Hello.
Hey.
I was listening.
Could you
in
turn
to
on
this
your camera?
I'm in my pajamas.
So I don't have pants
But
on.
yes, I can. Okay, one sec.
Yeah.
I'll open the curtain so it's not pitch black.
Is this Joe?
It's not Joe. It's Janie.
You got like identical
Thank you.
accent.
I'm not. Yeah, thanks.
We need to get Joe and Janie in the same eventually, because everyone keeps comparing these two women.
You sure they ain't the same
They
person?
might be. Joe might be flying to England. Just
Wait,
to
you're not
confuse them.
Australian?
She's not Australian. She's English.
I thought she was Australian.
She
Oh my
is
God,
Australian.
I'm confused
No,
now.
Joe is Australian. You're English. So,
I am?
yeah, you
What?
are.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, she sounds very Australian too, but I'm probably just awful at like discerning accents.
But her accent sounds more Irish. That's the thing. But then Joe's accents, like I said before, they like lean to Irish. So I don't know. Whatever. We'll work this out. One day we're gonna get you two together. It'll be great. So, yeah. So yeah, you had something you want to say on all this, Janie?
Okay, so I kind of like was listening in before, and I'm just really confused. Could I just get Fanatic to restate his position on if there's any gender differences between the male and female experience on Twitch, just for my own clarity?
And if you could, actually no, I can just rate your volume. Go ahead.
Sure. So I would say that there are probably some differences, but the differences are just, I mean, I guess maybe not qualitative differences. It's just that, yeah, like as a woman, she's probably going to get a different type. Like the specificity of the harassment is going to be probably different. So yeah, I would say that that's the difference. Like they're gonna like in the same sense that a black person is gonna get a different kind of hate from like a white person. Like in that like our hate is going to be geared towards our race, whereas their hate is going to be geared towards something else. But it's going to just be recrudescent hate. That's what you're going to be experiencing in all of these situations. But I don't know if there's anything like again nothing qualitatively different.
Okay, I can kind of understand what you mean when you say that. But I I would say that there is a big difference between like sexual harassment and what would be called like typical harassment, verbal harassment, or reading like just general abuse, not like racial, obviously. But I would say that you're probably not going to get the level of sexual harassment that women on this platform have to endure. And that would be on top of any verbal or, other types of written harassment, I guess.
Sure. I mean, I guess that's true. I would imagine that I probably wouldn't get as much sexual harassment, but I would just get other types of harassment, and I think the same. I'd probably think it'd end up being the same amount. But yeah, like for sure, I'm probably gonna get less sexual harassment because like sex is gonna be your thing. Just like I would imagine most white women are gonna get less racial harassment, but they're gonna get their own harassment. It's just again, the hate is gonna be the same, like the same amount,
So
quantity wise, but it's just gonna be different based on whatever the characteristics that they can exploit from you. And if there aren't any specific characteristic, it'll just be some random form of hate. But the hate is going to be there regardless.
So to quantify this, you're saying like if we were just looking at like Twitch chat comments, right? Like you like of the percentage of your Twitch chat comments will get more or less the same amount of hate. It's just that hate may come in different forms.
That's what I would believe. Yes.
Okay, Janie.
I just really struggle to believe that's true. I mean, I'm new on this platform, but I've already had to like ban quite a few people just because of sexual abuse, well, sexual harassment I've received on here. And then I've also received like just general verbal abuse, like calling me certain names. Again, I guess some of them were related to like sexual harassment, call me like a slag or whatever. And it's been a constant, reading that and then catching it with my mods and then feeling like, well, I don't really want to be objectified on here. It's made me really uncomfortable. I'm not like dealing with that type of stuff in my other like real life job. And I can't comprehend how that would be the same for a guy. And I assume men do get some degree of sexual harassment. I'm not saying that
No,
doesn't
no, we
happen.
disagreed on that. I mean, we already like conceded that you're probably not going to get as much sexual harassment. But let me ask you this: do you think that your sexual harassment outnumbers my racial harassment?
No.
Okay, so then we would be having pretty much the same quantity, right? But it would just
But
be on
I
different
don't know
factors.
necessarily if that's true in terms of quantity.
Right. That's the thing that I'm bringing up is I'm saying I don't believe that there's any quantitative difference. Maybe it's going to be just on different factors. Like that like the thing that they're going to attack me on is going to be probably more race, whereas the thing that they're going to attack you on is probably going to be more likely sex. But like the
Okay,
amount
so
is going to be probably the same.
okay,
It's
so let
just
me ask you this then. What about if I was to compare my experience on Twitch with a white man's experience on Twitch? Do you think there would be any quantitative difference?
No, I think he would probably just get a bunch of hateful comments telling him he sucks, telling him he's awful, telling him he's a loser, calling him a virgin, calling him an incel, or whatever any of the various other things that like Twitch banned. But like, it's not going to be like that. He's like getting a pass or something. I don't think that that would be the case.
I think that's incredibly disingenuous to suggest that a man with no immutable like characteristics that can be picked on is going to get the exact same amount of abuse that I'm going to get as a woman on here. When I'm going to be, encountering a lot more sexual harassment, I think I'd be getting the exact same amount of just verbal written harassment. I really find it hard to believe that he's gonna get called an incel as much as I'm gonna get sexually harassed.
I think it's really disingenuous that like we brought up one point and now you've just immediately moved the goalpost to something else and now you're calling me disingenuous. But even with that being said,
What did
I
I
would
move the
think
goalposts
well,
to?
because originally I was talking about me as a black person, and then I would say that I would probably get the same amount of hate as a woman. And then afterwards, now you're moving the goalpost to something about, well, let's just talk about man in general, right? Which, of course, I just automatically assumed that you were talking about a non black man, because that would probably be the best way of making that argument. And sure, I would imagine that in reality, a non black person would probably receive like again, hateful messages. I think they'd probably be identical, or probably really similar. But I guess maybe you're right. Maybe I could concede the notion that in reality, just because of the fact that women are less prevalent, so it's something that would stand out, that might be cause for people to treat women differently, such that maybe a woman might receive slightly more hate or something. Possibly. I don't know. I don't know if we can quantify that. It just seems
Wait,
to
you think
me. Go ahead.
let me check something. You think it's because women are less frequent on the platform that they would receive more abuse?
Yeah, for sure.
So
Because I
do
would
you
say that.
think when somebody of color is on the platform and they receive more abuse, it's because they're just less frequent on the platform?
I'm not saying that I think people. The thing is, I don't really think that people of color receive more abuse. I don't think black people are receiving like people are.
Oh
I,
Lord.
I would say hateful messages are probably just like the norm on online spaces. Like, for example, when I played like Call of Duty, like I remember like people kept saying things like where anytime like a kid would say something, they would say, "Oh, we got to be careful. You don't want this kid to shoot up a school." Things like that, right? And it was just like, oh, that's pretty bad. But of course, if they ever hear my voice and it's like, oh, N word, right? And they're going to start spamming that word. If it's a female, it's going to be like, oh my God, it's a woman. I don't think that a woman is getting more hate than me as a black person is going to get on Call of Duty. And I would think anything that's going to be off-putting or I'm not, maybe off-putting is the wrong word. Anything that's going to be outside of the norm is going to be the thing that's going to be like picked on because it's outside of the norm. But again, I think like the hate in general, it's just a hateful place where people say very hateful things really consistently. If you remember, they banned when they went and did their terms of service, they didn't just ban specifically things against gender or specifically against race. They banned even things like, again, incel, talking about someone's sexual prowess or their sexual technique and etc. because they recognize that this is just a hateful environment where like there seems like there was no holds barred. Everyone gets it. Everyone's just attacking everyone for everything. So yeah, but I mean, maybe I guess there's no way of quantifying this. But again, you might be right that
I mean,
maybe
there
because
are
there are
ways of quantifying it.
well, do you
It
have any
is
access to any of the
quantified.
ways? I'm not
Not
saying
on me. I mean, I just got out of bed, but I
sure.
could get
So
you
you're saying that
papers.
someone has
But I
papers
mean,
that
we
where they
are
were able to
living.
quantify the level that black
I would
people
very
have
much
hateful
believe
language,
that would be possible.
women versus men.
Absolutely. It's all
I'm not
logged.
saying
I
it's
mean,
not
why the hell
possible.
would it not be
I'm not saying it's
possible?
not possible. I'm saying I've never seen any of that data quantified, and I don't
Okay,
know that
can
anybody's
you
ever
remember
collected it.
Gamergate by any chance, and the way that the
Sure.
women kind of copped so much abuse for no good reason, and how that basically defined a generation of how women were treated in the gaming industry? Because I do remember that. In fact, I
Yeah,
grew
I'm
up on
very
video
familiar with
games.
Gamergate.
I
Yeah,
remember being in COD.
I promise you I've
Not
been
very
gaming
fun
longer than you
lobbies.
have. But I promise you I've been
Okay,
gaming longer
well,
than you have.
okay,
And I
hang on.
promise you that that sort of
Anyway,
hate
back to
has
the
been present
game.
in all of these things, like for sure. For
Okay,
black
well,
people,
I don't know
for
how
LGBT,
you would
always been
know
top.
how women are abused compared to men if you're a dude. I don't know if how much attention you're paying to the research
What I
or the
said was
general
specifically, I didn't say that I know
cultural
how they're, what I said
feeling.
specifically is that these things have been prevalent in video games literally forever since I've been playing video games, before you were playing video games. I've been in these environments. I was a frequent arcade person as I was a fighting game player, and I know how these environments have been. I've been online longer than you. I've been playing video games longer than you. I know how the environment operates
I don't think
more
that
than you do.
means you
So
know more
I
than
do
me.
know that. Huh?
I don't think that means you know more than me.
I'm saying I have more
I'm
experience in this
older
area.
than you.
I'm not saying I know more than you. Maybe I'm sorry. It wouldn't necessarily mean that I know more than you, but I just know that I've spent more time than you in this space online for longer periods of
Okay,
time.
have you
So
spent
with
more
that, I have
time
more
in
experience.
this space as a woman than I have?
So
I
here's
would
the
be intrigued to know.
no, of course not. But here's the thing: since you haven't
Well,
spent
then it
as
don't
so
matter, does
good, I
it?
got you.
It
So then, of
doesn't
course,
matter.
the reason why your argument is so asinine, but you can't see it, is that because you haven't spent any time as a man. So if you're going to make the argument that because I haven't been a woman, that I don't know exactly what it's like to be a woman, so I can't quantify that, I can flip that right back at you. You don't know what sort of hate a man gets in this space because you've never been in this space as a man. So you can't make any quantitative judgment or any quantitative argument because you have
And yet
no
I
data.
wasn't the
So
one.
without any data,
I
you
wasn't
can't make that
pushing the
argument. Point,
original
period.
argument. You
So if you
came
have no
in
data,
here
talk
pushing
about it.
the argument that men and women got the same amount of quantitative abuse.
Sure, I
And
would
so
say
I
that
came
it's
for
just
your argument, and now you're saying that I shouldn't make the assumption that women get more abuse when I
because
wasn't
you've
the
made that
one
statement.
making an
You
assumption in the
literally made
first
that
place.
statement. You literally
No,
made that
you
statement.
literally made the
You
statement
literally
Okay,
said
that
to
okay,
me that you
okay.
men
don't
cop the
understand how
same
I could
amount of
possibly
abuse
know.
Oh,
as women.
You literally said you
That's
don't
the
understand how I could
statement
possibly
you
make that
made.
statement.
That's
You
the
said you
statement
don't.
okay, okay.
you
All
You
right,
made.
literally said, hold on,
okay,
let me just
okay.
get this one last thing out, Prime. You literally made the statement that you don't know how I could possibly not understand or how I could wouldn't assume that women didn't get more hate because of the fact that they're women in this space, in which I conceded you might be right. Possibly, it's possible that maybe women might get slightly more hate because of the fact that they're an outlier in this space. That was a concession. I literally used the word concede, meaning it was an argument that you made that I was now conceding to. So you definitely make this argument having literally zero data and then tried to fall back after you made
No,
this
no, no, no,
asinine,
no, 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 no.
unfounded,
Sorry,
unqualified
Prime.
Hold,
statement.
hold,
I
hold,
can
You
hold, wait
then
a second,
made
wait a
understand.
second,
that.
wait a
I
second.
know it's
Well,
okay.
I'll
You
let
can
you.
get your word in after I finish my statement. You made that
I know.
statement. You said that after I mean,
Oh,
I love
after you
talking to
made those
myself. It's
statements, after you made
enjoyable.
after you made those
Oh, is
statements,
that the Australian?
hold
after
on.
you made those statements, I then went on to concede to you, and then now you're backing it up to say, well, you have literally zero data, and saying I can't make this statement because I'm not a woman, when
I'm
you
gonna let
can't
him
make that
go.
statement
Just let
because
him
you're not
go.
a man. So if that's the case, then neither one of us have any ground to stand on. Although I would say that I have significantly more experience than you, that lends me to being able to be more to have more more ideas about what this space has been like, considering I've probably been here twice as long as you. If you're new to Twitch, so I mean, I've been here literally 10 times as long as you, if not more. So
okay,
yeah.
So
okay.
good that a
So,
man gets to shout down a woman
so,
in such a way
oh,
and then talk about how women don't get as much abuse.
oh boy,
Lord,
Do you think
oh
I'm treating you
boy.
any different than I treat men?
5 minutes.
Oh.
Do you think I'm treating you any differently than I would
No,
treat men?
no, for you, no. Okay,
Okay.
I'll give that
Okay.
concession.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, okay,
Trust,
great.
All right.
believe, I
Let's
watched
not
you
use that
before.
argument. That's a weak one.
Okay. All right. So, we're night. Okay. My amazing friend Joe Lasulusaris has just popped on. Hi, Joe.
Hi, guys.
Hi. Okay. So I'm not sure. First of all,
Hi. Sorry.
uh,
Fanatic was smiling. It was so cute. Like he was in trouble. I don't know what you guys have been
I am
saying.
not in
Okay.
trouble. Trust me. I stand on mine.
all right.
Believe you me.
All right. Before we get to the substantive part, I got to get this out of the way. Like, Joe and
Apparently we
Jane,
sound the same.
you sound
We do not
exactly
sound
the same. Like,
No, we
no,
don't.
sound
We're
the
from
same.
different
Yes,
countries.
yes. Look, everyone says
We're
this,
from
Joe. No,
different
What? So what Jane sounds like is what Joe sounds like when she like lowers her register. She does this every so often.
Oh, when I'm trying to sound smart? Yeah.
Yeah. That part. When she lowers her
I don't
register,
think, no.
that's what you sound exactly like her. Like Fanatic, when Jane just came on, Fanatic made the mistake of thinking, "Oh, is that Joe?" Thinking you were using a different icon. People, a person after person have made this mistake that she sounds exactly like you, like all the time. That's so. I'm so happy that we can finally get you two on. I happen to like you both. But there is a difference. There's a difference because Jane here hates philosophy. So
Oh God,
It's important that we have a differentiating.
yeah, that's
Factor.
okay.
Yeah, characteristic.
That's
We're
how.
in different time zones. It's the morning here.
Yeah.
I've
That's
just
why this is
woken
the
up.
first time we've crossed paths.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have. I'll never meet anyone on Australian time from over here. It's like a different world away.
So I am so happy that we finally got that out of the way. All right, that's done. All right, that's been on my mind. All right, moving on. Substance stuff. So I'm not sure how much of this you've caught, Joe.
I literally only heard Eris being me. That's it.
You were there for that. Okay.
I got sent to me. That is all I've seen.
Okay. Then we had a longer conversation. This started out on Hans's stream. Well, it started out even before then. There was some drama between Hans and Cherry and Steamboat. Jack, not Steamboat Jack.
Riverboat. Yeah.
She's gonna be mad at me.
What is the one?
Riverboat Jack, one of those things. And then DMA apparently. And then Joe Lewis had an issue with how Hans interacted with those women, and he made a comment about his behavior being anti-femme, I believe is the term he used. That spawned a separate conversation on Hans' stream, which I got roped into and Bosch got roped into, and we had this had this long discussion about that. Eventually the conversation turned to how men in general treat women on this platform, and whether we are making this an inclusive space, and that whether it's being performative, right, in a certain aggressive manner, or by being out and out sexist, that we might be creating a space that pushes women away, discourages them from being a part of this. And part of Hans's contention, and honestly my contention as well, is that, and you and I, Joe, we've talked about this, is that like Hans and I always treat, we believe we treat women the same equally, and what that looks like is that when it's time to be aggressive, when it's time for blood sports, then we don't hold back, right? That's us treating women as equal functioning adults, because we assume that they can handle it. If you've come into this space, that you can handle this thing. Joe Lewis's point was that not just how we deal with women in particular, but our collective conduct, right, sends a message, especially to newcomers, right? And this discourages them from coming
Yeah.
on. So he brought up the example of all black everything, and how difficult it's been to get black women on that.
Yeah.
And he was saying that, well, we've him and Wiggles back then had tried bringing some women on, but what would happen is they would look at other content with Twitch politics, and I guess also for my stream, and then conclude that this space is overall too, well, uninviting in general. So I'll just leave it at that. So whatever they might have thought, I don't know. Okay, so that was Joe Lewis's argument. From there, that stream ended. I was going to have a conversation with Joe Lewis, have back and forth, but he wasn't able to make it. And then we have Fanatic and Eris. And then as we were talking, I brought up you as an example because we've had this conversation about this, both in public and in private, about how women are treated, and like.
Yeah, because we've had to over time because it's been a point of drama in the community multiple times.
Multiple times, yes. So I brought you into that, and that's what Eris was going on about.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're more or less caught up at this point. Yeah.
Okay. I would say, first of all, just from what I've heard from listening in now, there's absolutely no point in trying to quantify harassment in terms of like who has it worse. It's also like just offensive to black women on the platform who experience their own kind of discrimination, which is completely unique and new and involves both racial discrimination and sexual harassment. And the thing that I would say like I have had it out with both you and Fanatic multiple times. It's not so much an issue necessarily of like treating people with kid gloves. I think there definitely is an issue of the fact that when you are a bigger streamer, and this is true of women too, right? Like if I were to go at Fanatic and treat him like a piece of shit if he was on my stream, then my community is also going to treat Fanatic like a piece of shit, right? And a lot of this relates to social ideas that already relate to stereotypes. So I know I think I heard Fanatic a little bit after Eris did an impression of me, you saying that you've never seen anyone treat me with disrespect or treat me like I'm an idiot on this platform. But it does happen a lot, and if it doesn't happen from streamers that I'm interacting with, and it's not always like people outright calling me an idiot. It's people just not listening to me and not taking my point seriously and assuming that I don't know what I talk about. And then it's chats actively saying I have to mediate it so carefully, because if I go too aggressively about what I'm talking about, then I'm a condescending bitch. But if I'm too nice and I'm trying to accommodate everyone, then I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm a dumb bimbo and I should just get off the platform because I don't know what I'm talking about. And it's not just in the panel. Like when I tell you, I have said to my personal community, I have said to them, please no more DMs. I can't have any more DMs. And I'm still getting 7+ DMs a day from members of community. And it's not always, a lot of the time it's people expecting extra justification out of me to prove my points. It's that they somehow are able to demand a level of attention from me that I have to be able to walk them through everything. Otherwise I know nothing and I'm a dumb bitch, right? But there's also an odd parasocial attachment that I'm not sure if men get in the same way, right? I'm not a hot tub streamer. I don't make sexual content, and I get the harassment of like literally every single stream, someone telling me like drop your OnlyFans or do this or do that. That happens every stream. That doesn't bother me so much, right? Like I don't mind someone comes in, tells me I'm old, I need to be put out to pasture, it's time for me to settle down and have babies. Someone comes in, picks my appearance apart. That's fine, because I've also been in this stream when people have come in and spammed Prime with the N-word and vitriolic, horrible, racist, and it's really shook me on his behalf. It's not that I think that people don't receive racial harassment. And to me, that sexualized harassment, sometimes it gets me down, sometimes it makes me feel unsafe and sad, but it's not the end of the world. For me, it is the fact that people form a very strong parasocial attachment with me and demand a lot of my time in a terrifying way. People will hang around in a way that makes me uncomfortable and appear in places that I don't want them to appear, message me. It means that any kind of attention I get, I never have the assurity that someone watches my stream because they think I put a lot of effort into my content, to be honest. Like, I try and do research, I try and make it entertaining, I try and make sure that it's factually based. And I never have the security of knowing whether people are there to watch my content or if they're just there because they want my attention, they think I'm pretty. And
But wait, hold on, because like there's a few things, right? Like this thing where it's like, man, when you're arguing, if you get too condescending, like if you look at like my comments, like people will say
yeah,
it all
you're
the time,
condescending
right?
as fuck. No, I'm
Right.
kidding.
I am. Listen. I will never take away from that. I am incredibly because I don't respect a lot of people on this platform, especially ones that come on and say nonsense and then try to walk it back and try to flip it on you as if I'm not smart enough to be paying attention. I'm gonna go into alert. I mean, I'm gonna go into aggressive mode at that point. And
I
at
know,
that
I
point,
love it.
right? That's just who I am. But the fact of the matter is, even in cases in which I'm not, like there's conversations where I'm being as like placating as possible, and instead they're just like, yeah, it seemed like you were being really condescending to that person. It was like, what? I was intentionally trying my best not to be aggressive. And it's like, no, I just sound, and it's like, okay, so like, but so you have that. Like you'll be passive, and people will say, oh man, like yeah, you're just a little pushover. You let them get over on you, and then you can be aggressive, and then they'll say, oh man, you're so condescending. You gotta chill. Like your argument's you're getting emotional, right? Like no matter what, like you're gonna be criticized. Like you're getting that same criticism. I'm getting that same criticism. Like
Do you but honestly, that is in any, I find that in almost, and that's why I often prefer to do original content, because I find in any engagement I'm getting one of those two things. I mean, I have friends in the chat because, like you, I've been around this community for a while. So I definitely have people like you and people like Gamby and people like Revolt who are there to support me in the chat. But people who aren't part of the community, I'm never praised. I'm always criticized.
Okay, well, I don't know.
I believe that you've had that too, but I also believe that there are times when you are extremely condescending, and I think I only really while out on Prime. I don't think that I am condescending to anyone else, and I get called condescending pretty much every second conversation.
I don't know. I mean, well, we've had a conversation in which I felt you were pretty condescending to me, but that was a whole other thing.
I was being playful, and to be fair, you put that your community were pretty vitriolic about me after that conversation, and I didn't see you stepping in to say, to be honestly, Fanatic, when my community have been rude about you, I have stepped in and I have said, Fanatic is my friend. Please don't talk about him in that way. And some of the comments on our discussion, the way that people talk about me, I was quite upset with you after that conversation. It really hurt my feelings because I felt like it was not to do with the community harassment. It's to do with the fact that as a community, we should be defending one another. And I didn't feel like you stood up for me within your community.
Okay, well,
But that's beside the point.
Yeah, I got you. If I saw the comments, then I would probably be able to interact with them. I don't know which comments in particular you're talking about. Like I don't know. So I guess it's kind of like, were they in Prime's chat talking to you or in my chat talking?
It was when I came into your chat and we were talking and I was in the chat. That was one, and then they're on the comments for Prime's video of that conversation. But it's beside the point. But I'm just saying,
I've never seen those comments, so I would have literally no idea about them. I've literally never looked at like Prime's video for his comment. I uploaded like a version, I believe, myself, and I
maybe
saw
it's
those
on
comments,
that one,
but I never ever went to Prime's video, number one. And then number two, like in my chat, I don't know anybody who said anything particularly like offensive towards you. But if I would have, if I felt like somebody said something that crossed the line, I probably would have checked them. But again, I generally believe that this is a pretty hateful space. So and I can't, like, the thing is, if it's my mod saying or doing something disrespectful, I'm gonna check my mod. But if it's like just some random in the chat, like I don't know this person. Like, I mean, I get all sorts of hate
it's
and
your
stuff
community
on a regular basis.
Yeah, but I mean, like, this is
If
what
it's
I
a
mean.
person I don't know, how is it my community?
Because, well, if
think
someone
we
was in my
all have
chat
a
and someone was rude about me, I'd
responsibility.
fucking kick him out.
So I'm probably gonna treat them the same way I do when people like say things to me.
Okay, that's fair
90% of
enough.
the
It's just a
time, I
different
just
way.
ignore them, right? Like, but if well, yeah, the vast majority of the time I'm gonna ignore chat. Chat is hateful. Chat is brutal. It's a hateful, toxic environment. I know
But we all have a role to play in moderating that. That's the
Of
difference.
course, and
I
I
don't think we
do.
can wash our hands of that. We all
I'm
have our
not doing
own
that. It has to be
communities, big
extreme,
or
though.
small.
Right, but some of these things are not my community. It's a live broadcast in which any person can say anything they want to. I don't have any sort of limitation that says we have to be following X amount of time, you have to be a subscriber to chat, or any of those things. So any random person can come in, and I know how hateful this place is because I've literally been in this place for a decade now. So I know that this is how people are going to be. So 9 times out of 10, it's
So
like, man, I tend
if
to
people are
ignore
in
those kinds
your
of things. I'm
chat
treating it the
on
same way I
your
would treat it for
stream,
me.
That's fine.
okay, well, if people are in your stream, say if you're hosting a conversation with myself, okay, and there's people on because it's your chat, it's your stream, and they're saying she's being a bitch, she's being a condescending bitch, and you see these things, are you going to remove those comments? Are your mods going to remove those comments? Or are you okay with that?
I'd probably leave those comments because if that same comment was saying Fanatic is a complete idiot, he's a total moron, and yada 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 yada, I would leave that comment the same way. I'm gonna treat her
Well,
the same
I
way I would treat
think
me. So like I'm not going to allow someone to tell me that I have to give someone else some sort of consideration that I wouldn't even give for myself. If I recognize and have accepted the notion that this is a toxic, hateful environment in which people say
wait, I
and
think
do
you've
really
got to have a
stupid
bit more
things, the
self-respect, mate.
idea
Because I
that
think
if
I would,
you can call it a level of self-respect if you
if
want to,
someone,
but
right?
you better,
Okay, let me put it this way. Let me put it this way. I'm gonna put it
One
this
second.
way.
recognize.
So I
Hold on.
I'm
haven't
a
Oh,
man.
spoken
okay,
to
hold
anyone
I
on.
am a
else
Hold on,
man
hold on, hold
that
on.
I'm a man
Oh,
that
look
has
at man
enough
shouting
respect.
on
I'm a
me.
man
Hold on,
that
hold
I
on,
am
hold
a
on, hold on,
man.
hold on.
Yeah, yes, stop it. Go ahead and stop doing that.
Hold on.
I'm a man that has enough respect for
Yeah, we're
myself
not gonna get a word in,
I
mate.
got you. Good. Yeah, yeah. You can get a word in. You can get a word in when I'm done, and I'll get in my word when you're done.
Boy.
I'm a
Bloody
man.
hell, I don't
I'm a
think I'm not
man.
all bloody,
I'm
Okay.
a
mate.
man.
Janie,
I'm a
Yeah, we know.
man.
That's why you're
I
trying
am
to
a
pull me over
man.
here.
Hold
Hold
on.
I
on.
am a
Hold
man.
on.
We've got
I am a
evidence.
Everyone
man.
Let's
quiet,
get it.
quiet.
Okay.
Everyone quiet for a second. Janie, I promise you, I will let you respond. You'll give you the space to respond to all of this. We're going to let Fanatic finish his point.
Okay.
Then Janie, respond. I'll give you the floor, okay? Fanatic, finish your point so that Janie can respond.
Thank you. I'm a man that respects myself, and now she gets up and walks away. Isn't that
No,
beautiful?
she
It's fine.
can
I'm a
still
man.
hear. She can still
Okay.
hear.
All right.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. I'm a man that respects myself, but I recognize that part of that respect, an insult, is only as strong as the respect that you have for the person that issued it. If a person of literally no consequence, an inconsequential imbecile, decides to say something to me, 90% of the time, I'm gonna go ahead and brush that right up off my shoulders. You know why? I don't know you. I don't respect you. You mean literally nothing to me. The only people that can actually say things that'll offend me are people that mean something to me. So chances are, I'm gonna go ahead and dismiss that. I'm online. Literally anybody has access to it. I had like 10,000 followers on Twitter. So the idea that some random person is going to say something to me, like it's like, okay, yeah, like eventually you got to learn to tune that thing out, right? And that's something that I've developed that I know to do. So I'm going to treat other people the same way I'm going to treat whatever else. I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, I'm going to go ahead and police every comment against everyone else. When I know better than to do that, because all it's going to do is encourage more people to do it and more people to like feel like, oh, this gets a reaction out of them. So let's go ahead and continue to do that. And then that's how you start getting barraged in nonsense. That's not what I'm going to do. I respect myself, and I have a certain amount of dignity, and that dignity says that these random idiots online making comments can't do anything that's going to greatly offend me, and I'm going to probably expect other people to learn the same skill. That's just me.
Janie, please.
Okay, so let me put this another way then. If I had Fanatic on my little show, 100 viewers, and I saw somebody saying the N-word or making some kind of reference to your race to any degree, maybe not slurs, that's a bit of an extreme thing, but if somebody was saying something in regards to your race, I respect you enough as another human being on this platform as somebody who has control over the chat, my chat, I would say to my mods, remove that immediately. I do not want to see that. That's disgusting. It's not fair. I would not let anyone ever go after immutable characteristics, nor would I let anyone go after anyone and just harass them. If I saw the same person posting, 5 times towards somebody I had on my show, but they're not going hard at anyone else, I'd be like, that's not okay. That's harassment. I'm going to remove that. I think that's pretty basic human level of respect to do that. And I don't think it's unreasonable to ask somebody, if somebody was calling me a bitch repeatedly in your chat, why you wouldn't feel comfortable removing that.
You think someone saying the B word is equivalent to someone talking about my race?
Okay, wait, just
Are
to
they
get
coming at me for being a woman?
I'm not going there with you.
Oh,
Okay,
boy.
that's where I see where the disconnect
Okay, then.
happens, and
Oh,
I'm gonna
fucking
leave
hell,
that
I've started
with
off
you.
another bloody monologue.
So here
Jesus
we are.
Christ.
So it's
Okay, go
crazy.
on.
You just gave a monologue. You just gave a monologue, and I shut the hell up. So now
This
you're gonna
whole
shut. So now
thing
you're gonna
has
shut.
been
So now
you
you're. So
giving
now
a
you're gonna. So now
monologue.
you're.
I'm
So now
hearing
you're.
your
So now
voice.
you're.
Okay.
So now you're gonna shut the hell up and let me
Christ.
finish. The whole time you talked,
bloody
I didn't say a
Okay.
word.
Okay.
The whole
All right.
time. The whole time.
One at a time.
We don't get to talk.
Can you mute
'cause
her? Can you mute
only
her?
talk.
Can you mute her?
We
Can you
sit
mute
here
her?
and
Can you mute her?
silence.
Can you mute her?
Okay.
Can you mute her?
Come on,
That's
Janie.
You don't
Janie.
have basic
Oh my
decency.
God! All right.
You're
Look,
talking
I'm
about
gonna
people
have to-
talking about you
I'm gonna
in chat,
mute
and you don't have the
both. I'm gonna
basic
mute
decency.
both. I'm
Mute
gonna-
both?
Yeah.
I shut up while she's talking. You gonna mute me?
Hold on. Everyone muting. On. Just one second. On. Okay. Great. This is fun. Okay, so we'll try it again. We're gonna try this again. I'm gonna unmute one. I'm gonna unmute one. And I'll unmute the other. All right. Finish your point, Fanatic, and then Janie can respond. I do want to let Joe in, and I
barely began my point. But that's all right. Look, if you feel like it's appropriate to mute me in a situation in which I have the floor after I literally took my time.
I just wanted to stop. I just wanted to pause it. Not
It
the
would
punishment.
stop if you mute the bad actor. I refuse
sorry.
to take responsibility for someone else's failure. I got the decency and the recognition when she said something as heinous and ridiculous as if someone was saying the N-word, and compared that to somebody calling someone the B-word. I recognize how absolutely ridiculous that statement was, but I knew to shut my mouth because I had the decency to recognize it wasn't my turn to speak. If she doesn't have that awareness, then you can mute her. You shouldn't be muting me in this situation because I know what I'm supposed to do in these scenarios, and I acted appropriately. The fact that I would be muted when someone else is trying to talk over me is absolutely unfounded, unfair, and inappropriate, and I'm not standing for it. She's ridiculous. This is not a good conversation. That's not the proper way to handle things. That's absolutely absurd. Making these comparisons is absolutely ridiculous. I know better. She should know better. She's the one acting absolutely ridiculous, and I'm not standing for that. I'm out, bro. I can't do it.
I was trying to do equal treatment under.
Why would it be equal if she's speaking over me and it's my turn to speak?
Okay, that's my fault. It's my fault. I apologize. Okay?
Yeah,
I
can't do it,
apologize.
bro. I'm
That's
out.
me. All right. I'm good one.
I love you.
All right. I love you too. Janie, you can respond to any of that, and then we'll just go with.
I did not. Okay,
Yeah.
let me just clarify. I did not mean the N word. What I meant is if somebody was referring to somebody's race. And if maybe not the B word, but if someone was saying stuff to me that was like clearly sexist, and if someone's saying stuff to him that's clearly racist, I'm gonna treat them with as much contempt as I would hope somebody who is saying sexist stuff to me would be treated.
Okay.
And that's the point.
All right.
I mean, I don't know.
Okay. Joe, you had a comment before.
Let's all calm down.
Yeah, I know.
I wanted to say to Fanatic that I didn't mean to actually single him out. I was more talking about like if we were looking at ways to improve the community. I have found that when I am in a situation with a streamer and they treat me with respect, their chat seems to emulate that. And so when people sort of rouse on their chat if they're being rude, that tends to pull them into line. I'm not talking about going through and wiping every critical comment of me or not letting people like attack me. I'm just saying like being very clear about respecting the women you interact with so that the chat does the same.
Okay, so I want to engage with that. One, just I'm going to stake a claim here. With my chat, like I don't like, I don't allow people to just, tell people like immutable characteristics, right? Like, if you want to call someone out on their terrible ideas, that's fine. But if I see that, and hopefully my mods see that, we get rid of that or ban that person. However, I will say that when it comes to my special friend Joe, I do give different treatment. If I see someone going after my friend Joe, I'm tossing right the fuck out. Get the fuck out of here. You're not welcome. That's the way it is. That's my role. That's how I operate here. So okay, let's put that out there. So, but Joe, that's also difficult. What you're
It
saying,
is.
yeah. So saying that, like, when the streamer treats you with respect, then like the chat does, and I can see what you're talking about. But specifically in a space that is oriented towards blood sports.
Mm.
I thought we were
Yeah,
having a
I don't-
friendly conversation. What are you talking about?
Mm.
We're getting
I don't
all
have-
along. We're all getting along so well.
I honestly don't have the answers, and I honestly don't think that I've never had an issue with blood sports. I honestly don't have an issue with people yelling at me in the chat. I mean, sometimes it gets to me, but I'm sure sometimes racial abuse gets to Fanatic, even though that he, you know, has pulled himself up by the bootstraps and has worked out how to not let it get to him. I'm sure it occasionally does, right? So I'm not necessarily talking about the chat. I'm talking about what I think is unique, and maybe I'm wrong, and unfortunately Fanatic is not here to share his experience, but I get so many messages after every single debate I do, after every single stream I do, asking for endless qualification, asking for endless engagement. And if I don't engage, then I see people in other people's chats talking about me. This is when I'm not even on. I was in Wicked Supreme stream the other day, and people were insulting me in the chat when I wasn't there. And the people who were doing it were people whose DMs I didn't respond to. Or I said in the DMs, I'm really sorry, I don't have the space to engage with this. If you'd like to engage in my stream, you're more than welcome to do that there. And they got mad at me and they called me names, and people get so hostile when you don't give them the attention. So for me, the uniqueness in the experience is, and I may be wrong, and you can answer, and I wish Fanatic was here to answer, but the expectation for me to engage with every single person that believes they have a claim to my time, I believe is gendered. I do not see men on the platform getting this level of demands on their attention.
So, all right, then I will answer this. I don't get that. That's not what happens in my DMs. My DMs are mostly empty. I mean, most people don't talk to me, which is fine. But yeah, my DMs are mostly empty. When it, like, on a rare occasion, someone will want to engage with me with like something they seem like, if it's like something particularly big, like Destiny is on, right, and then they'll want to engage with me then. But like this is not like a regular occurrence. This experience is totally alien to me. I don't have that. And we were talking about that when we were saying that, I can only think about like the articles I've read, with women talking about the experiences just out in the world and thinking, and people thinking like what's it? Not wolf whistling. It's when you call people out on the street. Catcalling. Excuse me. Thank you. Catcalling. Right. It's like that people are entitled to women's time and space, right? Like, why don't you smile, right? They're entitled to your smile and all those things, right? So that's what I was hearing when you said that. This is not something.
I'm sure it does happen to people. And I mean, like, look, there are huge streamers that I'm sure get inundated with messages, but I'm a below 100 viewer Andy. So the fact that after every single stream, I get minimum 5 messages asking me to engage further on a topic I've engaged with in stream, or just messaging me and expecting my time. And this is what I was complaining in my stream, and maybe that's why Eris brought me up, because I was complaining in my stream the other day. I said, it's so annoying because like everything, like I saw, like, seeing we're calling people out, I saw another streamer talk about like stuff they got gifted for their stream. And I was like, well, I can never accept gifts for my stream, because if I get a gift, I can't be sure that I'm not accidentally promising something in return for that. Like there's a big expectation when it comes to money that people can try and buy your attention. When I talk to bigger female streamers who are trying to give me tips and help, they all say, be really careful about accepting anything. Don't accept anything because people will try to buy your time. People will try to buy your attention. So it's difficult for me, because to me, I don't think the chat and the blood sports, like, I know that, to be honest, I'll be honest with you, lots of women can't cut it in blood sports. But that, I think there are plenty of women in this space, plenty of women you've had on the show tonight who are more than happy to get down and dirty. I don't really give a fuck about chat, right? And that's fine. It's not just like, oh, women are so meek and mild and they can't handle the heat. It's not that. It's that, like, when I'm not on stream, I still get the heat.
Mm-hmm.
I get the heat. Even if I don't stream for a week, I get the heat. And it's not just one modality. It's not just people being like, oh, you're such a dumb bitch. It's then the other people who are like, why haven't you responded to me? Like, I just people who have a very strong parasocial connection with me. And that is extremely taxing and worrying because it makes you feel like the job is like, it's a very different job for me, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. I'm very much like a 10 viewer, Andy. So I haven't really had that. But what I have had is people messaging me afterwards. I don't get like a lot of it. I don't get inundated with messages afterwards. But I've had a lot of sexual messages after a stream. I've had people asking me for OnlyFans, for pictures. And it's like, this is so inappropriate. I would never dream of messaging a guy like that. And I've seen it in chat as well. And I've seen it when I've been on like when I've been talking to other people and then I see messages in chat and it's like, oh, like send feet pictures or something stupid, you know what I mean? But it's clearly like got sexual connotations and I would never send that to a guy. And it's just like really inappropriate. It makes me feel uncomfortable and I don't like reading it. And I especially don't like the idea of when people say things like, oh, well, you should just become like a hot tub streamer because, you know, that's a great way to make money and you can make more money doing that. And it's like, well, like fair enough if people want to do that, but I'm clearly like, I'm not doing that. I'm not making sexualized content. So why do you have to jump to sexualizing me?
Mm. It's yeah. I mean, I can't speak to what other people's experiences are. I can only say that the hardest parts that I attribute purely to my gender about being a streamer is that there are extra demands on my attention.
Mm.
There is an extra sexualization of me even when I am like just chilling wearing like baggy clothes. Like I don't feel comfortable like I've told you before, I never stand up on stream. I never like walk out of frame on stream. Like I try to keep my body out of stream as much as possible. And even doing that, I'm still like hypersexualized by chats, which is fine. Like it doesn't bother me that much. The only way that it bothers me is that it makes me insecure about my content. So it is hard
Mm.
because, I'm a PhD candidate. I think I make good content. And yet the more that this happens, the more I'm like, okay, well, people are just watching me because of that, because of some weird parasocial thing, because they think that I'm nice to look at. It's not because they're actually interested in my takes on platonic virtue ethics. It's like they want to like just look at me. And so that becomes really, and then even, you get subs and then you feel uncomfortable about the fact you got subs because you're like, oh, that person like gifted me a whole lot of subs. Do they think something of that? Are they do I owe, like, is there some sort of like something owned? Like, do I owe someone something for that? Or like it becomes this weird tension because there are people who very much think you owe something to them.
Mm.
Like there are people who are they have it very clearly in their heads that they have a claim on your time.
Mm.
So then even the reasonable people who are just gifting subs because they genuinely like your content, you end up questioning that because you're like, well, I don't know, maybe they're trying to get my attention. And now maybe if I don't give them that attention, they won't ever sub again. They won't resub. Then I've lost my like income for the stream. So like the income doesn't feel attached to the content. It feels attached to your attention.
Okay. All right. So you've said a few interesting things here. I think in a space built on the parasocial, that it's always tied. Those two things are always tied, especially like for me, I understand it's the content. But I some of it's customer service, right? Some of it's customer service that like you have to make yourself available in a certain way, and I make myself very available. I mean, anyone can talk to me, like every stream, some people can talk to me, but if people don't want to donate to people who they don't like, right? And what it is that they like about them can change from person to person. So it could, yes, be your looks. It could be that they think you are funny. It could be all kinds of reasons why they would do that. I think that with women, it is, I think, to be anxious about that attention coming because of their appearance is perfectly valid. But in the end, and I think maybe this is what Fanatic was trying to go to, is that that's just another facet of the same problem that everyone else is dealing with. That this is gendered, certainly, but it's not. I think he would say that it's not any worse, because there are some guys who are very pretty on this platform. Some people come to look at them, right?
Different.
I'm trying.
I know what you're saying, but I need to cut you off there before, and I'm happy for you to continue.
Mhm.
But it is, you know, that it is different
know.
in that for a man being a pretty, that is something that is on top of, they're seen first as an authority and second as pretty, as an added benefit. Hassan is pretty, but that's not the base of his content. Whereas for women, the base expectation is your appearance.
I agree. I agree with you completely. In fact, I made this point previously when it was us and Eris, that because we were talking about like pretty privilege, and like the detriments of all that. And Eris brought up, well, there's men here who are pretty, and have to deal with these things too. And I said that, like, I don't believe it's on the same level. I believe that, in fact, that for men, they are looked at with a certain level of respect, and that being attractive only draws people towards you, and they don't face the same. On the other end, the harassment, they don't face the same, like like that sense of security is never threatened, right? All of that is true. So I believe that's why I'm trying to relate what Fanatic, I think, would say in this situation, is that this is simply another aspect of harassment. Yeah.
See, I just want to say I completely relate to what Joe's saying about how you don't want to, you kind of feel like you don't want to bring it on yourself, so you won't show your body. You'll cover up. I do the same. I'm very much like somebody who wears like a lot of baggy clothes. And I can't imagine a guy ever feeling like streaming and feeling like he's got to go out of his way to not sexualize himself. And it's that kind of feeling of not wanting to almost blame yourself because you don't want to feel like you're bringing it on your own self. And although a guy may feel like you get the customer service thing, you feel like you've got to be like friendly and relatable, and people are going to want to talk to you because you're somebody who talks a lot on like a panel. That's what you do, you debate. And so they might message you and be like, well, I want to pull you up on this point because I disagree with you here, or I agree with you here. But I guess for what Joe's kind of saying, I'm sure she can speak for herself, but it's the additional demand and it's the demeaning tone that's used to try and say to somebody, well, you don't seem to really know what you're talking about. And it casts that doubt on her intelligence, whereas it's not accepted at face value. And instead she's minimized just to her looks.
I would say that even, and this was my argument before, that if we could quantify this, and I know we're not trying to, but even we could quantify the amount of harassment, that the type of harassment actually also matters. That if I'm getting spam like the N-word or something like that, like yes, like Fanatic, I fucking ignore that shit. It's like whatever, right? But if someone is being made to feel that they like undermining their intelligence, undermining their credibility, and that being a continuous thing, that can weigh on you, right? That there's a different emotional burden for these types of harassment.
And can I just say before anyone comes in, I am actually the worst example to use for this, right? Because I am a PhD candidate. And you know what? I'm more than happy to say it in this conversation because I think people will be too scared to call me condescending in the chat. I am extremely intelligent. I know a lot and I've spent a lot of time learning a lot. So it's a lot harder to call me an idiot who doesn't know anything and that I'm just a dumb bimbo because of my looks. It is more, and that still happens. It happens all the time. And that is me having a fucking PhD. Like, to any other woman on this platform, and I'm sorry, Prime, like, I love your content and I watch it a lot, but there are occasionally some fucking dumb people on here. And like, I never see them get spoken to the way that I see the women get spoken to when they voice an opinion with a similar level of qualification. So, I don't really care about the chat so much, but like, it is that thing of like, you have to realize that outside of here as well, like, I'm telling you, the same thing happens to me at academic conferences. That same thing of like never being sure if people are supporting me and at my speeches because they like the content I'm producing in terms of academic contribution, or if they're just there because I'm the pretty young thing on the philosophy circuit and I'm new and different. So it is like really crippling in a sense.
That's not something that's unique to you though. Like, because I would
No,
say,
it's not.
right. Like,
Get closer to your mic.
Sorry. I think it's accurate. Like, I think the thing that you're talking about, the fact that because of the fact that you're like a PhD candidate, you would probably be less likely be one that people would like call you a bimbo or anything like that, right? I did look in the comments in the video. I didn't see anything like that. I watched the entire chat because I had uploaded the content like of you and I having a Cosby conversation. I didn't see a single hateful message towards you, literally anywhere in that chat. I don't recall it ever happening. My mods
When you
are big
left,
fans
I'm
of
sorry,
yours.
I did apologize when you left. I said I never meant to make it like about you and I was more talking about like things we could do in a conversation, like to make the space safer, which is that like communities tend to reflect the attitudes of the streamer. So I didn't mean to make it a condemnation of you. I'm really sorry.
I hear that, but you did also say that you did experience that in my chat that people were doing this thing, and I looked for the evidence of it, and it wasn't there.
It wasn't in our Bill Cosby conversation. I actually got upset with you in the Bill Cosby. It doesn't need to be a personal thing between you and I. I actually got upset with you in the Bill Cosby conversation. Then I decided that you were important to me, and so I stopped by your stream when you weren't talking about Bill Cosby. Later, it was a later stream, and you brought up Bill Cosby, and your chat was being extremely rude to me then.
I
And
have
I was
that
in the
box
chat.
still. I can look at that
Yeah.
one and see if they were being whatever.
Perfect.
But yeah, I think ultimately, yeah, the thing that you're talking about, where like people, again, it's just something that it seems like it happens on a regular basis. Every single time when someone has an opinion on Twitch, I mean. Someone said this a long time ago, and I think it's absolutely accurate. They said the easiest way to get a response on Twitch is to say something incorrect. And like, so you can just say something like, Magnavox was discovered X time, and people will tell you, nope, Magnavox was discovered at this time, because people want to correct people on the internet. Like, it's a phenomenon it's true.
So my issue is I'm dumb. I'm saying the wrong thing.
See, no, and I think this is a perfect example of it. If that's what you heard from that statement,
No,
She's joking. She's joking. She's joking. She's
I was like,
joking.
"Whoa, Lord have
I was
mercy!"
baiting you. I was baiting you.
Okay, because I was gonna say, man, that says it all. But no, in reality, what it is people want to correct everything. That's just what people want to do. I've had people literally question me on like literal like biblical stuff where it's like, bro, like this is my area. I know this book, and it's just like people will question you, call you out, and I don't think this is accurate. And it's just like, please, like anyway. My point being, it doesn't matter how much you know. It doesn't matter how right you are. People are going to find some way of like criticizing you on different areas, on whatever the freak it is. People want to be contrarian. Again, there's been examples of like actual, like literally the foremost studied person on the topic. I remember he had made some things like regarding trans issues, and people were like trying to like downvote him and telling him he was an idiot. And then he was like, I'm literally the like foremost studied person on the planet on this subject. I am so published on this, more so than any other person in the world. If anyone's an idiot, it's not me. But it doesn't matter, because everyone believes they know everything. So I'm never going to dismiss the idea that people probably say mean things to you and tell you like that you're uninformed on things. But I'm always gonna like, it seems to me like you're almost assuming that they're doing this to you because you're a woman, and not ignoring the fact that they literally do this to literally every person.
No, I'm not saying that they do it to me because I'm a woman. I'm saying the way they do it to me is gendered. So it's the language they use, the way they dismiss is different to just saying because trust me, ask anyone in my community, all my chat does is tell me that I'm wrong. All my chat does is bully me. I am more than happy to have people disagree with me. I am more than happy to have people hold me to account. It's not an issue of being told that I'm wrong or that I don't know something. There's a very specific gendered way that you can be called a dumb bitch, and it happens a lot. But I mean, you're right. You know what? I'm not saying that other people don't get called wrong. And I'm not saying that we should be running around the internet erasing every time someone calls a woman wrong. That is 100% not something that I would ever support. I'm trying to just speak, and the idea of even comparing Black people's experience on the internet to women's experience on the internet is so ridiculous to me. I,
Yeah, can
I
I
would
just
never do
correct
that.
the record? Can I just say, Fanatic, I did not mean that it was equivalent when I get called a bitch and someone gets called the N-word. I apologize. I know that we were having a heated conversation and I misspoke. And I would never try and say those things cannot be compared because they are qualitatively different. And the strength of those words, I'm not even gonna try and like compare because I just don't think it's appropriate. So if that came, I think I did kind of put that across incorrectly, so I would like to apologize.
That's fine. I accept that.
Let's
Call
be a
you an
bit.
idiot, and I'm sure you've called me an idiot a lot of times. It's not to do with like, it's because there's
I call
also a
everyone an
degree.
idiot,
Well, there's a degree to the entertainment, right? Like there's a certain degree to which we have to be like blood sporty because it's fun. Everyone knows Chat Joe is very different to Stream Joe. I wild out in chat. I will call everyone every name under the sun, man or woman, regardless of race. I'll go after all of you in the chat. No issues. I'm not about censoring the way we talk about people. What I'm saying is I notice patterns in the way that I'm spoken about, and even more than the chat and more than that are the demands. And I just find that the constant demands to qualify, give attention, back it up, prove it. Like, I don't know.
I,
Maybe that is a universal experience, but
so
that is just something
I want
feels
to hang on that. But first I'll say one thing. I've never called Joe an idiot. I've never done that. That's never come out of my mouth. I'm curious. You can say the same about me now, though. Now
No,
you're
I
saying,
can't.
"Oh, everyone is
Pull up
called
the
an idiot."
screen.
Now, I guess, I guess I must be included in that. But I've never done that to you, Joe. Like ever. So we'll see. Any which way, Fanatic. What Joe was talking about, that gendered experience, that people in her DMs, like making those demands in her time, like, do you see that? Do you agree that that might be gendered in the way they approach her?
Possibly, but I would also say maybe that it might be also the fact that she's not so readily accessible, right? Like that she doesn't stream on a regular basis, so very often, like if you catch her in a conversation, you're gonna have to DM like in order to try to like get more into it. So then it seems like that would probably be the most reasonable way of doing it if you want a continued conversation. She's not in the space pretty regularly, so I think that probably has a lot to do with it.
What do you think about that?
It's one thing if I'm on a panel with you and we're discussing things and you DM me after. But this is what I'm saying. It's like 5 to 10 DMs after every appearance. And I do like last week I didn't stream because like people in the space know I've had a lot going on personally. But I try to stream 2 to 3 times a week. Like I'm not that inaccessible. I stream 2 to 3 times a week for 4 hours and then I come on panels in between. It's not like I'm this elusive chimera that like pops in and out of people's worlds. Like I am
Now you
easy,
do. But you'll remember for a long time you didn't. Remember?
but this
You
is
specifically
new.
were.
The more that
Huh?
I stream, the more messages I get. The more that I stream, and it is even when I say, please, no, please, I don't. I have a no DM policy, and I still get constant DMs, constant whispers in my own Discord, in other people's Discords, constant ats. And
Yeah,
I
I
get
get
that I
that.
can block that out, right? But it
Mm.
is this thing of like, just you can't escape it, and it is a lot.
Yeah. Joe, there was a thing that I did in my stream a long time ago when I was like when I quit fighting games and I didn't want to play Marvel anymore, and I had on my stream, don't ask about Marvel. Like when you join my stream, it was like, whatever Fanatic chat, don't ask about Marvel. And I had forgotten that it was there. And I would never see it in my chat because, you don't see your joining message. And people would always join my chat and put, don't ask about Marvel. And I'd get so annoyed, like, man, like, why do people keep asking me about this game? I had forgotten that it had been set up that way. And I finally, like, it had been a long time. I had quit Marvel. Like, I hadn't been playing it for a long time, and they were still constantly doing it. And then it finally, like, one day I'm like going through and like redoing my Twitch for the first time in like forever, and like I'm changing all these things, and I see that message, and it clicked. That's why they kept asking me about Marvel, because I specifically told them don't do it. It's an internet toxic place. The
Okay,
second
so
you play any
Fanatic,
kind
what
of
do I
thing,
do? Because if I say nothing, I get a huge amounts of DMs. If I put in a policy and I say please don't DM me, I still get a huge amount of DMs saying, I don't know if this policy applies to me. I'm sorry to break the policy. I just really need your attention right now. I'm not okay. I need your support. I'm getting constant like DMs either way. So I'm just wondering what I'm meant to do. Because if I say
sure.
something, I get them. If I don't say something, I get even more. So I'm just wondering what your prescription would be for this.
So my prescription would probably be not to say anything and to just completely ignore DMs, and you will see those things quickly disappear. It'll take a while. I mean, maybe not quickly. It'll happen. It'll take a while. I have a great friend by the name of Mike Zymont, an amazing person, and he told me this thing because I used to get blown up by my family. I'm the youngest, and they would blow my phone up nonstop. And he told me about this rat study. Really, really quickly, basically, there was a rat. There were all these rats in a cage, and there were these rats with a button. And basically, at one point, they ran the test where they would press the button, and the rat would get food. So then the rats would press button when they were hungry, and eventually they learned, oh, just press the button when you're hungry, and I'll get my food. And that was that. Then there were some rats where they would press the button, and no matter what they pressed, they were going to be fed in a specific interval, and eventually those rats just never ever would press the button because the button had nothing to do with their food. Then the last rats, they had it where it was random. Sometimes they would press the button and they would get food. Sometimes they'd press the button and it wouldn't. And those rats literally never ever stopped pushing the button. The second they got in the cage, they would push the button incessantly. When you would pull them out, if you let them go, they would run immediately to the button, and they couldn't keep their fingers off of it. That inconsistency, that I don't know if it's going to happen or not, that's what keeps people really, really, really whatever. And so, because I was explaining to him about my family, like constantly calling me, they were always worried about me, whatever. I was the youngest, and I would always be disappearing, and they were just always like, yo, like whatever. So he was like, answer your phone, just answer it every time, and they'll stop freaking calling you. That uncertainty about I don't know when I'm going to hear from it, that's what's driving it, and so on and so forth. So in this case, what I did was I got to a point where I just kept answering my phone, and for a while I just literally refused to even have a cell phone for like 2 years. I was just I'm not doing it because I needed it anyway. My point being, for you in this situation, if you literally just don't, if a person DMs you and you 100% don't respond, I would imagine after a certain amount of time, like that individual might send you a second message. Like if you don't respond to that message, eventually he'll just stop messaging you. Like that person. Now, the fact that some people,
There's,
go ahead.
there's this really good book actually I'm reading at the minute. It's to do with kind of using your intuition to pick up on signs that somebody might be dangerous. And one of the chapters is actually about like stalkers and harassment. It's a little bit of an older book. It was in the 90s, but a lot of the studies are actually kind of follow that line where if you reply after say 30 messages, you're going to send that message to the stalker that they're going to, after 30 messages, that's what it takes to get you to reply. So for each 30 messages they send, you will reply. And so the best thing that they say to do is to just never reply,
Yep.
to never give them anything. Even getting a restraining order can actually be counterintuitive because they think that that will give them attention. And the book talks about how it goes down a lot of inquiries, but it's about kind of just starving the people around you that are harassing you of attention and continually sending that message, and you will stop lighting up the parts of their brain where they think that they will equivocate a certain amount of messages with a certain response. And if you keep strengthening that stimulus response, then they will keep doing it over and over again to get that response. But I understand what that's like to get messages, and it sucks when I would hate to be in a position where I've said, do not message me, and people keep messaging me. I've luckily not been in that position. I don't really get many DMs, so I cannot report that.
What do you
Yeah,
think
I
about all
mean,
this, Joe? Go on.
I just think in terms of like let's say I wanted to grow as a streamer and be a really big streamer. These people who are messaging me aren't strangers. They're not people who've popped into chat once. Like sometimes they are, but like we're talking about people who are also regulars in my community. We're talking about other streamers. We're talking about people I exist in this space with. And what I'm telling you is that when I don't reply, and I don't know, you're right. Maybe I'm like I definitely think it's a bit annoying to hear that I'm the problem. Um
No,
but
I don't want you to
no,
think
no, no,
that
no,
I'm
no, no, no,
saying
no.
that.
I'm
I'm
just
really
saying
not.
what I'm saying is like hearing the sort of solution where it's like, well, I mean, in sometimes replying, you're sort of like asking for people to keep messaging because you're like lighting shit up in their brain. It's like these are people where even if I'm not responding to them in DMs, they're in my streams. There are people in this stream right now. Like GSU Gambit is harassing me right now in DMs. He's in the stream, right? So like he knows that I'm seeing them, right? And now I've lit up that bit of his brain by mentioning him on the stream, and he's going to send me a bunch more because I've given him that dopamine hit, right? And so the issue for me is that ultimately this is what I'm talking about in terms of the attention that's really difficult. It's that in terms of growing and creating a community, when I don't respond, it's not just that I'm finding that people continue to message me. It's that they're in my chat and I want them in my chat. They're important parts of my community. A lot of the time, the reason I respond is because I care about these people and I don't like to see them hurting or like I want to give them a bit of my time. But the thing is, when I don't respond, it's not just that they get angry and rage quit my community. It's that I see them in other people's communities saying shitty things about me. And they never say, "Oh, she didn't respond to my DMs, and that's why I'm shitty and I'm bad mouthing her." They say, "Oh, she's condescending and she's not as smart as she thinks she is, blah, blah, blah. She's a bitch, blah, blah, blah."
But
Yeah, please. I really don't want to seem like I'm trying to like victim blame because let me put this across very clearly. The responsibility lies with them. If you set a boundary and they violate it, that's on them. It's not on you. That you are
I'm not
doing everything you can. If you say don't message me and they continue to message you, that's not on you. Let me make that really fucking
but
clear. It
I
is
make a
not
big
you.
point of, like, never ever talking about my personal experience on Twitch streams. The only reason I'm bringing it up is because I'm trying to demonstrate that if this is happening to me when I'm excited to get, like, 60 plus viewers, I know this is a reality for other women on the platform. I know it
Yeah,
is.
absolutely.
For sure it
So
is, but it's a problem for several men too, and I think there's plenty of people who have like obvious walls between their DMs. There are plenty of people who have made it to where you literally can't DM them unless you share a thing, whatever, yada 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 yada. Then there are some people who literally won't accept any DMs whatsoever, and the only way that you can actually get in contact with them is if you go through a third party. People set up different sort of walls in those sort of ways. Like sure, and maybe this is something that you're getting in specific, like you're getting specifically more so
but
than
isn't
other
that
people.
shitty that I have to do that when I'm at, like, 70 viewers?
Sure,
Like,
it
d
does sound it does sound, and I think your situation is unique. I don't think that's the case for all women. Like I know plenty of black women streamers that aren't having that experience whatsoever.
'Cause they have
Um
totally different problems because
sure,
they have an intersection of oppression, yeah.
I agree.
Like, I'm
I know white
a
streamers who aren't
white
having that.
woman.
I know white female streamers who aren't having that problem also. But that's crazy. The thing is, this is a problem that the circumstances for you are something different. The thing is, Joe, you do have hot takes. Like very often, like you're coming from a different space. Like you have like more educated positions, and you're literally pushing the envelope on a lot of things. You're not trying to be in Twitch just saying some banal point that everyone already agrees on. A lot of times, you're pushing back against things. So the fact that you're pushing back against the norm is going to make people want to like get at you in order to do
Yeah.
whatever. Last time I was in Destiny's DGG thing and somebody everybody like started to think like, oh man, I'm a fan of Fanatic, and then people just started like attacking me in all these different positions. I think you're racist. I think you're hateful. I think you're and all of that stuff. And I started answering questions, and more people. Then I started getting DM'd about it. I was like, oh, what am I doing? I know better than to engage with this nonsense. And after that, I just knocked it off. So like the fact of the matter is, yeah, like we are gonna experience different things. Like so, sure, maybe that's a problem that you're having more so. I'm gonna tell you 100%. I know it sucks because you might care about people. I would say the best thing is to literally not respond to those things. I can show you my freaking Facebook. I had a habit. I literally, and I used to say this like literally verbally, I literally never not respond to a message from any fan for any reason. That was my take, and I had a lot of freaking fans in the fighting game community, and I was nonstop doing it. Like, and that was a thing for a while. Eventually, I had to recognize, like, man, I don't want anything to do with this anymore when I retired, and I just had to leave these people on red, and that's just the way it was, because I was done with that community. I was done with that game, so that meant I had to move on. But for me, that's what made me make the decision to stop that, and eventually the messages stopped. Still to date, I retired like literally 5 years ago. Still to date, I will randomly get messages from people. Hey man, you got any Magneto tips? Like, bro, I literally quit that game. What are you talking about? So I would imagine for you, like, yes, it's gonna like it sucks because you're still in it right now, but that is probably the necessary thing. We had to, for different reasons, we were getting DM'd. Like, but it's the necessary step if you really want to prevent that behavior.
It sucks because I don't like talking about my experience. It just sucks that there's not enough research to make any sort of generalizable statement, because I know obviously my experience is going to be unique. Every woman streamer is going to be unique. So until like you have a group of women explaining like what's going on for them, so you can actually see what is consistent across the group,
Yeah,
then
men are going
it's
to
gonna be
slide in your
difficult.
DM. I totally let me just make sure this is crystal clear, okay? I totally believe you that that men are sliding in your DMs, and while like a lot of times they're doing it immediately and they're saying things like, "Oh man, I want you to prove your point or whatever." In reality, I promise you, for a lot of them, they're just wanting some sort of interaction with you in the DM, and then after you show or whatever or prove the point, they're going to try to find a way of sliding it into something like, "Oh, when I might come to Australia sometime soon." And blah blah blah.
Do you
I know
realize even that? Like, do you realize how shit that is? That even when
Yes.
someone is annoying me to get my like intelligence, ultimately it always comes back to being sexual. Always.
Yeah.
Sure. So, Joe, like, listen, I'm sorry. You have pretty privilege, but you're gonna have some pretty disadvantages. Okay? Like, niggas are gonna be trying to get at you, right? Like, you're a white girl. You're a blonde white girl, like on Twitch.
Not blonde.
Whether you're already I mean, whatever you call it, right? So a white girl on Twitch, pretty attractive, and so the idea that you're gonna have random niggas like trying to get at you, like that's a thing. Does it suck to always be hit on? Sure, like I can imagine that's probably whatever, but it comes with its advantages too. Like you're a
No,
70
but I
viewer
think
streamer. I can show you the list of 1 or 2 or 3 viewers streaming females that will never hit 70, even if they stay on this platform for a year straight. There's advantages and disadvantages. Yes, that's something that
I'm
you have to deal
first
with,
person
but
to
you
admit
got the
that
benefits too.
advantage.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah,
good.
but
But I think
So
the issue is
I
she's being minimized to her looks. Like her intelligence is being undercut and she's being minimized to her looks. That's where the issue lies. And generally it is about setting a tone. And I think that as streamers, especially bigger streamers than me, everyone on here, everyone has a responsibility to police their audience to an extent and to set a good tone where people of different backgrounds are able to interact
so
in a safe
I
place.
wanna okay, so I wanna get to like more solutions, right? Since we've really covered the issue, but I did want to say something about people talking about you, Joe, outside. So so outside of your stream and outside of your your Discord, and you finding them people talking about you, in other places. It's harder for me to talk about this because, as you know, I don't give a shit about social media. I don't interact with these motherfuckers, right? Like, for my own mental health, and it fucking works. It's a good strategy. Ignore Twitter. Anyways, right? But when I do get reports back from other people, yeah, like there are people who've had an issue with me, and they go off, and they're not just complaining. Prime did this. Right? They're attacking my character, right? They're saying I'm a terrible person, and then like it escalates to like, well, he doesn't know how to stream, right? Like he treats everyone badly, right? Like it just escalates from there because now they got a problem with you, And so it's not going to be limited to a rational discussion about the specific issue that you brought up. But maybe you brought up a bad point, right? Or maybe
That's what I'm talking.
yeah.
I have no. If I like, look, as Fanatic said, I am around here with some hot takes, and I know lots of people disagree with me on a lot of things, and I don't have a problem with someone being like,
It's not just
"Joe's
that.
a bitch," blah blah blah, because they have a bad take. But I'm saying that they spread shit about me because I ignore them,
I know.
which is what I'm saying is the
I
problem.
know. Look, okay. So I had it, and I'm not going to call the person out. I had a similar problem. In fact, yeah, it's something we haven't talked about. But I had a very long discussion with an individual, and they were telling me about like how other people perceived me, and a lot of it was a lack of attention from me that I didn't even
Mm.
know that people wanted from me. I literally did not know. And it's like,
So
sorry.
I don't want to talk about like no. What I'm saying is like I feel really uncomfortable because I don't like talking about myself on stream ever,
Okay.
like ever. I never bring up anecdotes, and so I came here to sort of like back
Yeah.
up what I was hearing being said because I thought it's important for us to talk about our experiences because if people like I never ever back up any of these claims of like, well, women are just like scared of blood sports and they're sensitive and you can't be mean to them. Like I never back up any of that shit because it's just not true, right?
Yeah.
But like I'm trying to the only reason I'm bringing up my experience is to like give some perspective about what it is like to be a woman streamer on here.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it because I want sympathy or I want people to tell me that like I'm privileged because I'm pretty or like I've got to expect people to slide into my DM.
No.
Like, trust me, outside of Twitch, like I live in this body. Like I understand what it is to be me. I don't need to have a stream about what it's like to be me.
Yeah.
I need to have a stream about like what it is like to be a woman on this platform. And
Yeah.
there are certain things that I think can actually be extended beyond my experience that other women will also have.
Okay. All right.
But you would also be able to.
Let's just leave it alone then. All right. Then I'm not going to go any further with that. All right. So let's then with maybe whatever time you guys are willing to share, talk about solutions, right? Because part of this is what I want to talk about with Joe Lewis is like, what should we do? Like this came down to a discussion of with Joe Lewis and Hans, like should men treat women differently when they're in a panel space, or not even just a panel space, it was one-on-one because Hans's interactions are one-on-one. So like should we keep in mind all the things that you're talking about, Joe and Janie, right? All the things that you've mentioned within our interactions, and then moderate them, or should we
Can I
like
go
give
on this?
the respect, like what we perceive as respect, and go at like attack a person's ideas just as hard, no matter what their specific identity politics might be. So yeah, Janie, you want to say something?
I just think like, well, generally we should probably all treat each other a bit better. You know, I love literally I love blood sports on occasion, okay? But generally speaking, I think that you should be able to have that within a conversation and then walk away and not feel as if your community is going to harm the other person. I think you should cultivate a community that's healthy and reasonable and generally treats people with respect. Now, you can go at it with someone, let's be honest. We all like a good fight. That's why we go on panels. But I think you have to be able to separate that from your general community. I think that, you know, I watched both the debates with Hans, and Hans, he came across like a bit of an idiot in the one against Cherry when he was calling her a girl boss. But I don't think he's a sexist, and I don't think he apologized for it, and I don't think he did anything that bad, and I don't think he was like sexist towards Demon Mama in his debate. I think if you walk into like that kind of blood sport arena, you kind of have to be, you're going at each other. You know, I didn't like the girl boss thing because that was clearly going for her gender. If he said something similar to Demon Mama, I'd say the same thing. I'd be like, why are you saying that? Like, why are you trying to make it gendered? Like, what's that got to do with it? Um, I think that you should treat everyone the same for the most part. But you should also have some kind of insight into your own behavior and think, am I treating this person this way because of the way they are? Is it because of their, race, sexuality, gender? And then go from there. But yeah, I think it starts from cultivating a healthy community.
Yeah, I want to say I think there's a few things. One, I don't know, man. I maybe I'm just too jaded, but I feel like in reality, the idea that you're gonna have like some really peaceful and tranquil community of any like decent size, it's just I just don't think it's realistic. I think the bigger your community gets, then the more toxic your community is because it's really easy to influence your close personal friends. I say all of my close personal friends all act decently, like because we kind of hold each other accountable in that way, as friends should do. Um, and so I would say, like I'm probably the most indecent of all my friends. I think they're all a lot more decent than I am, to be honest. And I feel like for the most part, I'm pretty good outside of like yelling at people in debates. In reality, the broader your community gets, like when you start getting an extension, you start realizing, man, some people have incredibly harmful takes, and it's just like I can't do anything about that. Like if I'm broadcasting and it's an open space, the likelihood that I'm going to be able to curtail a perfect community, it's just not possible. It literally isn't because we're random people on the internet, and most people, given anonymity, like turn into toxic cucklords. So I don't think that it's something that you can realistically do. What you can do is you can modify your behavior to make sure that you're good, like and that you're doing things appropriately. And if you see egregious actions, and you can curtail that in your community and like ban that. If somebody misgenders somebody in my community, I'm gonna knock that off real quick. Somebody comes in with the N word, most of the time I ignore it, like being honest. I don't know, but that's a personal thing. If somebody's doing something that's like incredibly hateful or like whatever ostensibly bad, I'm just gonna go ahead and look at that, like in or ostentatiously bad or whatever. Like I'm gonna stop that. But like in general, like I think most of the time, like you really can't control your community. It is the internet. You
So
can control that with close friends, and that's it.
I don't want this because, and like Joe says, she's like, don't care about the chat. Okay, I because this all started with streamers interacting with other streamers. So I kind of want to focus in on that because I think there's a certain.
Oh yeah, I wanted to touch on that other thing that you were saying too, like
Okay,
about like
and then we
treating women
get Joe
differently.
because she's excited and wants to say something. All right, go ahead.
Okay, really quickly, like treating women differently, I don't think you should. What I think you should do, well, only within this. I've heard studies like that have talked about the idea that like men intentionally, like, or maybe not intentionally, like subconsciously talk over women, and that, like, so that like they will like completely not allow women to speak in like certain spaces and stuff like that. And some of that can be based on cognitive bias. Now, I'm not sure that that's based on cognitive bias. I think some of that could be just based on like general agreeableness. And if women are like more passive and allowing men to talk over them in those situations, then that will happen because you'll see like passive men, the same thing happens. Like there's plenty of people in my circle where I'm constantly telling them, hey, you have to speak up. You have to. Do not allow me to dominate this conversation. I'm specifically talking to other men who are particularly passive. So I don't know that it's not a matter of like men doing something specifically to women. I just think men do this stuff to passive people. There are plenty of people in freaking business meetings who literally never say a word, right? So I would say, but you would check. You should check, and everyone's going to have to do some sort of self-reflection to determine whether or not they have some inner bias that's causing them to be like speak over women. And if that's the case, then you should probably curtail that behavior to make sure that you're at least treating everyone equally. But aside from that, like creating some sort of special treatment for women, like in these spaces in a competitive environment, I just don't think that that's the best way moving forward. I think the women who are particularly competitive and able to speak in these spaces and feel comfortable, those are the women that belong in this space, and the other ones need to learn to become more competitive because it is a competitive environment. Like it's not about like yeah, I don't know. It's a competitive environment where you're on a panel with a limited amount of time in which niggas are like literally competing for speaking space. And if you don't have the ability or the willingness to do that, this is not a space for you. People aren't going to just make a way and try to like craft a little bubble where we to make sure we allow this person to speak. It's not going to happen. It's
Well,
just
what are
not the
we
way it's going to
so
be.
like Fanatic, I agree, but like on I hear that I hear that argument more from men than I have from any women in this space.
Hear what
In
argument?
terms of like the whole like, well, women aren't speaking up enough and they don't like I can remember two women who brought this argument up like a year ago. But in terms of like me thinking about women who are active in the panels like space today, I'm really not hearing about women complaining about like being like completely spoken over all of the time. Am I just missing that? Because I'm thinking Maddie, I'm thinking me, I'm thinking Ugly Pie, I'm thinking like
Prime brought that up earlier. He was talking about different women having those opinions. Like I would say most of the women who are still like very active in this space probably don't have that argument, but that's because most of the women who are in this space are not the women I'm talking about. Because the women who are still remaining in this space after some considerable amount of time are probably the women who feel very comfortable being less agreeable in order to go ahead and talk up in these situations. It's the ones who are no longer here because they felt like they couldn't get in words edgewise, who refused to come on panels anymore because they felt like they were being treated wrong as a woman, even though it had nothing to do with them being a woman, but more to do with people just being aggressive and them not being able to sink, this being a sink or swim environment. I think that's what's really the case. But yeah, you rattled off all the women that I would never associate any of the things I'm talking about, lack of
Yeah.
agreeableness and all that too, because you guys are able to sling in the mud.
Prime, the one thing I would say in terms of what you were saying about prescriptions, I actually wanted to, the reason I got excited is because I think the men here and a lot of the men in this space do this really, really well, right? Which is like sort of, so when I get upset about like treatment on panels, it's actually not anything to do with being spoken over. It's to do with not being listened to. Like sometimes I will make a point and then no one will address it. And then another person on the panel will make the exact same point and they'll address it when it comes from him. And I'm like, am I like talking a different language? Are people not listening to me? And like the amount of times people won't listen to what I'm saying is like frustrating. But that said, there are some men in this space who do a really good job. I can't speak for all women, but when it comes to listening to me and like allying and like saying, no, 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 like she made a point, like respond to that point. And when like men do that for me, that makes me feel really good in the space because I can contribute and I actually have my words like mean something instead of just like pushing to speak and then not be heard at all and not be interacted with. So that's one. But two, it's also, and you know what, Fanatic, I'd like to put our drama to rest because I've been sitting here reflecting on when I came into your chat and I feel like maybe you did stick up for me and I have just like focused on the comments. I think you may have actually said to your chat that it wasn't appropriate what they were saying, that not to do it. I think you did actually do that. And I would say that Prime's done the same. And I went on CTV's panel and people were talking shit about me in his chat and he immediately put a stop to it. So I think all I'm saying is that when it comes to interacting with women, your community will reflect the standard that you put forward. So I'm not talking about like if I'm dumb and I say something you disagree with, go at me. But like if your community is just hating on me for no good reason, and like I like to think like Fanatic, I have a lot of respect for you. I feel like you have respect for me. And so I would like to think that in a moment, if people are being rude to me unnecessarily just because of some reason, that you would like call that to account. I think you have in the past. What I'm saying is like that really helps in the space when men sort of like set the standard by treating women with a level of respect just from the get-go. I know that sounds like something that you probably do intuitively, but not everyone does it intuitively. I have been treated with disrespect as the default by quite a few streamers. So it makes a huge difference when you treat me with respect because it means the people who love you and have that parasocial relationship with you then treat me with respect also.
But I think, and that's fantastic. But what does respect look like, and how does the audience?
I don't think Hans did anything wrong. I agree. Maybe the girl boss shit. I like it. It feels unnecessary. But
Cringe,
we're gonna cross those lines, right? Because we're trying to be entertaining. Like so, occasionally that shit's gonna happen. And this is the other thing. This is why I never cover drama on my streams. I've tried to explain this to my community. Is it like ultimately there's a lot of personal relationships between all of us that happen behind the scenes that like so Prime, sometimes you'll yell at me on this stream and people will get upset with you. People actually defend me in your streams, right? Like they'll get mad at you because you're being rude to me. And the reason you can be rude to me is because we have a personal friendship off stream, right? So you get away, but that also means that sometimes you don't realize how you're coming across publicly because we have a relationship that people aren't privy to. And so when you start being like quite rude to me, the chat is like, I can't believe Prime is speaking to a woman this way, right? And so it makes things more complicated. But I think yeah, it's not to do with like not attacking someone on their points. It's to do with like not listening to their points.
Okay, but so
You don't listen to me. You're right. I know what you're going to say. You never listen to me.
okay.
Yeah.
I
Joe, do you feel like
I listen. Hold on,
Can
hold on,
I
hold on.
just
You know what? I gotta hold on.
step
I gotta get into this, because this part's important. One, Joe knows I listen to her. I listen so closely to all her words, like it's ridiculous. But anyway, I literally write it down, because I listen to Joe's words. I
I'm
respect her.
playing.
I know, but I'm just putting that out there for other people.
God, I have to coddle the men in this
No,
space
you
so
do,
much.
you
They
do.
can't
My
just
no,
go.
no. This is okay. Anyway, whatever. But this is the heart of the matter, because the last time you were on was it the time of Pisco? Maybe was there a time after that? I
Yeah,
forget.
and we destroyed you. But you were a bit bad in that one. That's exactly the point I was bringing up.
Yeah.
You were pushing things with me because we have a personal friendship.
Mhm.
But honestly, there were moments where I was like, Prime should stop because this doesn't look good from an outsider's perspective.
But that's the problem. That's the problem, that it doesn't quote unquote look good. Why doesn't it look good? Because the way I
you were
treated
saying
you.
gendered-based stuff.
Hold on. I was saying gendered stuff to you. Like no,
Yeah, you were.
I don't remember this. I never gender my attacks. What? I don't.
No. You weren't gendering the attacks, but you were like attacking me, right? As you should have been, because I was going at you very hard.
Okay.
But then you were saying it in between, saying shit like, I listened to women and I heard what you said and it was wrong. So you were making it a gendered thing in between your criticisms of me. So, and it became this thing where like you were in almost trying to compensate and be gender neutral, you were like making it a gendered thing inadvertently. And I was like, you said, like, you kept saying shit like, I listen to women and I listen to your points and they're just not executed properly. So then people were sort of like, what the fuck does her having like being a woman have to do with anything? And it sounded gendered.
Oh, okay. All right. Now I'm remembering this, because at first I didn't know what you were talking about. So now I'm remembering this. At first, I think I was memeing when I was doing that. Just like,
Yeah,
oh,
but
yeah.
No, okay. I said to you on stream, I said, don't do that, bro.
And I didn't know what you were referring to. I didn't know you were referring to that. I thought you were referring to something else. Okay.
No.
Then fair enough. Okay. And then there are people saying in chat, well, Prime doesn't listen to women. I'm like, no, I do listen to women. But okay. But so that's a lesson for me for the future. But putting that aside, and then there's plenty of examples of this where you and I interact, right? That last time was pretty vitriolic. But you and I interact, and it's not nearly as vitriolic, because still, when I interact with you, like, it's not on the level of what I do with Fanatic. It's not. With Fanatic and I, like the level of anger and like things escalate very quickly when it's me and Fanatic. The chat fucking loves it. Eats that shit up every fucking time. They love it.
Chat eats it up. When I fucking go for you, the chat eats it up. The chat loves it when people get heated. In fact, you know what? Sometimes the biggest disservice you do me on this panel is by preferencing me too much. Because whenever I get any sort of attention, whenever I get preferential treatment, people always assume it's for some, like, even, you know, it's here and there's a bigger streamer who I've been on his show, and people always assume that there's some nefarious cause. It's never because I'm smart. It's never because you want to like hear what I have to say. I know that's what you do, right? Because we're friends and you want to give the space to me to speak. But ultimately, when you do it, the chat sees you giving me preferential treatment and they assume, I'm sorry, Prime, I know you don't want to hear this. I know you're aware of it as well. Whenever you give me preferential treatment, people say it's because you have a crush on me or there's something going on there. They say it all the time. It's never because I'm smart. It's always because I'm pretty. So you actually do me a disservice when you preference me too much. Even though I know why you're doing it, ultimately it always looks like a gendered thing.
All right.
You can't win. And I'm not saying that you can win, right? Like I get like,
that's the point. That's the problem, Joe. It's like, because look, like if he gives you too much treatment, then people are gonna say, "Oh my God!" Like,
how do you think it feels for me, Fanatic? Like,
oh, but that's the thing is like, it's like, so you were complaining earlier about like, man, it seems like, you know, I make a point and people don't listen to me. Like, man, you could start a counter for just like how many times I'm like always saying that's not a response to my question. You're not answering my question, and then like re-asking the question and getting really, really heated in those scenarios. Like it's always that
I know
happening
that happens to
on a
you
regular
too. Yeah.
basis. But that's not because you're a woman. That's because you're on a panel on Twitch. These are not women problems. These are communication problems with the imbeciles on panel.
I think the problem is, as Joe kind of said earlier, is we're not going to be able to, it's going to be difficult to demonstrate this until there's good comprehensive research, because we can't cite anything at the minute, or at least I haven't had a look into it.
Because all I'm going to
Don't
say
know
is
if
this
Joe
is my
has.
experience, and you're going to turn back and say this is
Yeah.
my experience too. But and
Right.
ultimately, all I'm saying to you though,
We
the
have
only
to
thing I have to
strike
say
a
in response to that
balance. That's what it
is
comes
that
down
like
to. We've all got to
this is
strike a balance.
So
this isn't just my experience in Twitch. This is my experience in every section of my life.
So
That's
Okay,
all.
I hear that, but this conversation was about Twitch and about whether or not Twitch is doing these things. And so, like, to move the conversation to just like, hey, this is just something that's happening in my life in general, that's a totally different conversation, which is
So-
fine. That's a
No,
conversation we
I'm
can
not. I'm
have.
not trying to move it off Twitch. What I'm saying is that sometimes these things feel gendered, even if they're not, because women experience them consistently in their life. So even though it feels like it's not a gendered thing to you in this space, women will interpret it as gendered because it happens to them in every aspect of their life.
Sure. Can I just
So-
say one last thing really quickly?
Okay.
Of course.
One of the lessons I remember I wrote down. I literally have it in a text document. It was a thing where I recognized one of my friends, one of my good friends. He explained to me, people aren't actually listening to you when they're talking to you. Nine times out of 10, they're just waiting like for you to finish talking so they can finish saying whatever the thing is that they want to say. Because in reality, most of the time, people aren't actually paying attention in conversations. People don't know how to converse. It's like it blew my mind, and I started recognizing people really just speak. And it's like, well, it's generally in the topic and whatever. And I started recognizing people aren't listening. Like they don't. That's just it's not a good. People don't have
I think it's a bit
communication
different though when there's people watching. That's where the issue comes, is if you know you've got an audience and then they're going to see that behavior. You have to make more of a conscious effort to make sure you are listening to people and responding to their points adequately. Otherwise, you're breeding, an unhealthy environment.
I'm
where
not saying
more
I
people
do
will
this.
that.
I
I'm not saying you personally. No, I'm not saying no. I'm saying generally speaking.
generally
Is
speaking,
that
people
we,
should
as
listen.
streamers. Yeah, people should. Well, yeah,
Yeah, but
and especially when you know there's like an audience.
right, but that's so banal. Like, yes, people should listen. That's the purpose of communication. But we know that people don't. People are terrible at communicating. But the crazy thing is, it's not just that people are terrible at.
But you have an additional responsibility if you have a platform.
Sure, I don't disagree with that.
You set the standard at the end of the day. We all
But
set a
I don't
standard.
disagree at all. I just feel like you're not really like this has nothing to do with the point that I'm making. Like you're really just basically saying some of the most banal truisms that like no one's gonna ever disagree with. Like you should listen to people, of course. Like if you have a platform, you should really listen to people, of course. Like that has nothing to do with the actual topic at hand. What we're discussing
Hey,
right
then, like-
now, what I'm talking.
What are we talking about then? I don't.
Well, let me finish the sentence. You would find
we're
out.
having two different
What I'm saying
conversations.
is,
God.
I got you because you've literally interjected. I've been trying this whole time. Literally, what it is that the difference is like it's one thing to be able to say this is just something that people do. It's another thing to say I'm being mistreated because I'm a woman by something that people commonly do. This is something that women just. I mean, this is something that human beings do, and in particular on a panel when the scope of this conversation is talking about the quality of treatment on a Twitch panel, it seems like you keep making this assertion in some sort of way that this is a gendered thing that's happening to you, and it's not a gendered thing that's happening to you. This is just the way people are and what people do in this space every time. Like before you got here, I know you weren't here for that conversation beforehand. The thing that I kept telling them is like I would need her to explain to me what these things are that are happening to her. Because from what Prime was explaining, if Prime can back me up on this, everything he kept saying, I was like, wait, but these are things that happen to everyone in Twitch. Every time. And everything you're bringing up, it's like, people aren't listening to me on panels. It's like, what? I literally have that as part of my idiot bingo for panels. Well, people like disrespect me or they tell me I'm wrong. And it's like, well, this is what Twitch is.
Yes, but it's the frequency of it. That's what is being argued here. It's not whether it happens. It's Yeah, of course, it's gonna happen to everyone on there, but it's the
but he's
frequency.
You don't have any
arguing
numbers for the
yeah,
frequency.
he's arguing that it's not that the frequency isn't different, that it's just a level of harassment.
I fundamentally
Yeah,
just
yeah,
do
but
disagree.
he's yeah,
And you
he's
can,
saying,
but you have nothing to back that up.
and which is what Joe's point was as well, because like we don't have numbers on these things, so it makes it very difficult to
Yeah, we don't
argue
have
on
the
this level.
research, that's the problem.
But yeah, so yeah,
But you should listen to people.
so
Like, you should listen if someone's saying this is my experience.
You can't
I
say-
don't think you should just deny that out of the
I'm
gate,
not
though.
denying it. I agreed. So that's the thing. I never did. I am listening to people. And when she says this is her experience, I'm saying, I believe you that it's your experience, because I'm saying, guess what? It's also my experience. So this isn't a matter of denial. The problem comes in which you start making a comparison. Like, this is happening more to
so
me.
I
with
kind
literally
of
no
I want to
numbers.
move off this point because I don't know how long everyone's going to be here. I don't want to take up everyone's
Yeah, I
time.
mean-
So I want to really get back to what I was going at, because sure, one, and I said this before you came on, right? I said I actually do give women special treatment, and you recognize this. You've already pointed out that I actually give women more speaking time. I'll do that because
Definitely.
they get talked over and all that stuff. So I try to make that exception, and I'm free with that. I'm honest about that. But what I'm honing in on is not just a dynamic that we have had, because you're saying, well, we have an offline relationship and that colors like what you see on screen. And that's true. But for other women who come on who I don't have that relationship with at all, the results are the same, right? Where in a conversation, I go at them if I think they're saying something wrong as hard as I would with a man, right? I don't hold anything back. The chat does the same fucking thing. It doesn't matter, right? Like this idea of it being a bad look. I get those comments. It doesn't matter. Because when a woman is on, it's like a woman, it's a form of misogyny where they look at women as fragile and need to be protected. When I rip Fanatic, when I rip Gambit, when I go after all these people, they love it, they eat it up. So it's not just what you've seen between you and I. This is like universal. This is what Hans was dealing with. And so, like, yeah, how do you deal with that? Maybe there is no answer to this. Maybe it simply is what it is.
Like, and I mean, I like, there's nothing for me to base it off. If Fanatic is saying he's getting the exact same treatment, then I guess, then
no.
It is just a matter of the fact. No, but I'm just saying in reply to like,
that's another thing. Okay.
I know it's a different point, but what I'm saying is like at this stage of the conversation, if that is truly the case, then maybe the women streamers do need to look at one another and just say maybe we are being too sensitive. Like if that's honestly the case, that you're getting the exact same treatment. But I just feel like I've never had a dude write to me. I've never had a dude write to me in my DMs and say, "Be careful of this person and be careful interacting with this person because they're going to do this, and be careful of this because they'll eventually." There's not a fear of security that I've had communicated to me from male streamers. That isn't to say that doesn't exist. Maybe it's just a.
I think
Joe,
we
why
have
would
to
that
look
be,
at the
though?
wider workplace.
Wait, but
we know women get harassed more than men in the
But then,
wider
okay, so
okay,
that's
but wait,
great.
hold on,
That's
Joe.
fucked. Then women aren't safe anywhere, Fanatics. That's fine. I get it.
No,
But
that's
then,
not
like,
the.
what?
I didn't make that point. I didn't even respond yet. I
Well,
didn't say
okay,
a
what did you
word.
say? Why would that be? Why would that be? What is it? Why would that be?
I said that the reason why that is because typically men aren't going to express like their feelings to you to tell you about like, hey, I felt unsafe in these ways. This is just not the way men operate. Most men are going to be probably too emotionally insecure to communicate those kind of things. Instead, what a man is probably going to do is internalize it, shut the hell up, and then just be like, dang, I really don't like that nigga. And that's going to be that. They're not going to sit there and tell you, hey, be careful of these people, whatever.
It's not a matter of I don't like that person. It's a little bit more serious than that.
People have.
Well,
I guess maybe what you're trying to say, Fanatic, like people have sexualized me, and it's been like in a fucking weird way in this stream, this chat. Like I'm thinking especially one person in particular. Yeah, that's the thing that happens, and then I don't communicate that. I think that's what he's trying to say. But
so that's
yeah.
Where do we go then? Like, if that's true? So we're all then Twitch needs to. I don't know.
I still don't think
maybe women.
Joe, I haven't.
At the end
Joe,
of the day,
hold on,
right?
Joe,
hold on.
Joe, I'm still with you on your original point. I think that it is different. I'm not actually agreeing with Fanatic. I'm just trying to state his opinion as I see it. But like I think that it is gendered. I think you do get more harassment than the rest of us. But I'm just saying I understand Fanatic's point in that when I get it, I don't really communicate that to others. This is the first time I'm even
Yeah,
really
I agree. That's true.
Yeah.
I would 100% believe that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You can't say.
Can I just say something? Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Overall, I think we're kind of talking around in circles at this point. At the end of the day, in the wider society, we know women do get like more like flack for talking up. We know women get more harassment in the workplace. We know women get more harassment on the streets. And you know what? Men, we need to make it so that men are able to talk about these things too. Because I don't want anyone being sexualized for any fucking reason. I don't think it's appropriate in a work environment, which is what Twitch is for a lot of people. This is a workplace environment. Your colleagues, it's not appropriate. And if men are being harassed in the workplace, they should be fucking like the people doing that should be held to just the same amount of account. And it's the same with male domestic violence victims, male sexual assault and rape victims. Like these things need to be held to the same standard. They aren't at the minute. However, we do know the frequency towards women, even in spite of that, is much higher. And I think to say otherwise is very disingenuous.
So,
and I think
okay.
that is reflected on
sorry.
Twitch.
I know we have only limited time, and I want to get my point across because we've talked about this issue, this part, and I really want to get my thing. All right. So, Joe, what are your thoughts on what my point was? Because you responded to Fanatics, right? On my point that this happens consistently, as we've seen with Hans, right? See with me, and see with other creators. Like Bosch was talking about this as well. That when you interact with women the exact same way you interact with men, the consequences are different. And like, what are your thoughts? Do you think there's a prescription, or is this something we throw our hands up saying that's just the way it is? That's society. We live in society, and this is how we interact.
I don't know. I think people are always going to see it as something that is more aggressive because there's a larger context of violence against women that exists, right? So people are always going to receive you going harder at a woman, even if you're treating them the same way, as something different because of the larger context of society. People are never going to like that. That's just how it is, right? In the same way that if I were to yell, like if I yell at you or Fanatic, there's always going to be like someone in the chat who says that I'm like the white woman talking down to the black man. That always happens. And like, that's just me treating you like I would treat any other person. It's because of the larger context it exists in. I don't know what the answer is for that. And I'm like really trying to listen to what Fanatic's saying and like reflect on whether or not I think that there is a gendered issue. And if there isn't, then maybe it is just a matter of like people toughening up. It's just not my political view of like, I'm not a big personal responsibility person. So like, it's taking me a minute to like wrap my head around, but like, I don't know, that it's hard to know without like a larger sort of
data set,
study of treatment. So, and I don't like, it's even hard having the conversation without like constantly trying to reflect it back to myself. So I don't love that either.
That's why I'm deriving it from a wider society.
So, okay.
I think you've got to, like, it's got to, there's a historical precedence of women being harassed more than men.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. And I take that. And yes, I agree that there isn't enough research on terms of online platforms, maybe on social media, I'm not really sure. But on Twitch specifically, there isn't. However, we have a historical precedence, and we also have the wider societal precedence. And I think those two things are really important to discuss when we're having this conversation. And I think they're very relevant to understanding possible, issues with gender on this platform.
So hold on. I just want to finish this. I'm sorry. I just really want to finish this.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I guess the question is, should we even bother responding? So we acknowledge this is how people look people interpret it differently, right? Well, we're looking at these different identities and how they interact. They're going to respond in a different manner, and it's unfair. Okay, acknowledging that. So should Twitch streamers, right? Streamer to streamer here, right? Like fuck chat. Streamer to streamer. Should we mitigate our behavior with that in mind? Because that's where this is all focused on. Should that be the case? Or should we try to treat people equally? And that doesn't mean, of course, that like, for instance, I can't, like, and you were saying before that apparently I was using gendered language. I didn't realize it, like, that I was coming off negatively, right? And so that's a fault that I did. That's my thing, and I
Well,
apologize
it's
for
that
that.
recognition
But
of your own behavior and understanding things and being responsive and receptive to criticisms that you hear from women. I think that is what it comes down to at the end of the day. Like, you need to listen to what women are telling you. And when they're saying this thing, like, why did you say something gendered? Like, you might not even realize you said it. I don't think you did. And I definitely don't think you would have meant anything malicious by it.
You didn't say
But
anything
these
bad.
things, like
It
these
just was the
implicit
context.
behaviors. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. Like, sometimes you do, like, we have to police our own language to an extent because you have an audience. That's what it means.
No, but no, that's the thing. So other than actually doing a sexism, right? If I actually doing a sexism, then that's one thing, right? And we put that in the corner, right? But talking about, like, treating people in the regular Twitch politics blood sports manner, whether we should moderate ourselves at all, because of this, because people are still going to look at it as problematic, when I think as a streamer, as a content creator, Hans thinks at this too, and to a certain extent Vosh, and I'm sure Destiny feels the exact same way. We've seen how he interacts with women, right? Is that it's best to show that respect
You
by
respect me by treating me like everyone else. Yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
That's what I believe.
Yeah.
And I think the only
And should that be the
only thing
case?
is, that should be the case, 100%. And chat can, like, get fucked if they think differently, right?
Okay.
I understand that there can sometimes be patterns. Like, if you're someone who has an issue with every female streamer on the platform, that should make you question something, right? And I think if you're going in, and even when someone is making good points and you're actively shitting on them, that's probably, like, just bad, whether you're doing it for any gender, right? I'm just saying, like, we should be good colleagues to one another and try and, like, get our chats to respect the people we're interacting with for professional reasons, right?
Okay.
But ultimately, yeah, 100%, you respect me by treating me like you treat everyone else.
Okay. All right. That's what I wanted to get to. I just wanted to say, all right. And then I think maybe, you know what? Here's might be a prescription, is like aftercare. This actually might be, I do this with Fanatic oftentimes, right? And I did this with you, Joe, right? Is that afterwards, I say, hey, I respect these people. I love these people. You've witnessed us go at each other, but, like, that doesn't mean that I think any less of them. Like, they aren't. This isn't. I never attack them as a person. Because I try not to. I don't try to attack their intelligence, or undermine their credibility. That's, well, I don't know. Maybe that they're incredible. I might do that, but like
Fanatic
yeah.
does that. You do that. CTV does that. These
Yeah.
are people that I have very different views to. Like, it's about
Yeah,
showing respect to the
exactly.
people, so that, like, at the end of the day, like, it is a new industry, right? I get that, like, people have been around a lot longer than me, like, a lot longer. But in terms of how we understand, how we relate to one another, it's a new industry. And so we're sort of setting the precedent for how you treat one another.
Yeah, this
And
is
in
what
the
it
same
comes
way, in a
down to. I
workplace, you're
mean,
gonna have people you hate. There are gonna be people you don't get along with. But in terms of, like, if it is someone that you intend to have a working relationship with, you need to extend a certain amount of respect.
Yeah. So I think after.
yeah, like,
Go
I've
ahead.
had like a lot of positive experience with guys on this platform so far, with, like, other male streamers. You know, Prime has been kind enough to put me on his panels when I'm, like, a 5 viewer Andy. CTV has helped me so much with setting up everything, like my tech and everything. I've got male streamers that have, like, gifted me subs and things, and, like, I really do appreciate it, and I don't see anything nefarious about that. And I think that kind of support, and I've also been in debates where CTV has said, like, let Rachel or Queen Janie or whatever talk. And then that kind of does help when, like, you know, lads generally shout louder than me, unless I'm like, hey, yous better fucking listen, right?
That's great.
I
love
want to
it.
fucking talk.
Oh,
Then I
that's
get
beautiful.
northern, and then you're fucked. Then I'm coming for you.
I love it. Do
But
more
for
of
the
that,
vast
please.
majority of the time, I think I'll deafen the mic and destroy it, and it's already on its last legs.
Yeah, but I want to
But
point
yeah,
out,
I
like,
think
that thing that you're doing, like that thing that you're talking about right there. I mean, like, that's me. Like, it, I'm not a yeller. like in my personal life, I don't yell. Like I'm not that like I that's just not normally how I
You gotta hold, yeah,
that,
it's
that
hard
that's
to
not how
hold
I
your
get
ground in
down.
this.
But in this space, I'm always yelling. I'm always yelling. And when I've like told people in my real life, like this is like what I'm doing online, then they're always like, "What? You would yell at people?" And it's just like because that's not what you normally do, but it is what's required in this space, right? But like coming from like recognizing that, like it's not like I'm not gonna sit here and be like, "Oh man, like I'm gonna always try my best to contextualize it within the space itself before I start coming up with aspersions against the community of like this is just they're doing me this way because of whatever reason. Like I feel like you always have to contextualize those things, and I think like yes, you can go out of your way to like make space for people to say like hey, I want to let this person talk. Um, but yeah, more often than not, like if that's what happens, then in those cases, people are probably gonna look at you a little funny and look like, oh, this person is coddling this person. Because in reality, like there's a bunch of people that you're never gonna have to do that for. Some people are going to like they're going to demand like that they're at the center of whatever. Like you know what I mean? Like it is a conscious decision to be like I'm going to speak up in these situations, and it is required if one wants to be successful in a competitive environment. You have to be assertive.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like I feel bad for you guys because right, like I have friends who raid into me, and then their communities tell them that like they're only doing it because I'm a woman and they want like my attention when they just are my friends and they are trying to support me as a streamer. So, I mean, it sucks. The guys who are doing it right, who are the guys who are here, who are the guys we're talking about, like it sucks because you get fucked either way, essentially. So I'm not like
Yeah, I
ever
think
criticizing
engaging with other
individuals.
female streamers is what's really important. Like, even Fnatic, who clearly we don't really have that much in common, but having the conversation is like a good way to, you know, try and figure out what the issues are on the platform so we can iron it out as a community.
Wait till you agree with
You
Fnatic
know,
on something as powerful. It's like a powerful combination. You feel like you're like on a Marvel superhero movie team. Feels good.
First
don't
of all,
mention Marvel.
first of
Don't
all,
mention
no,
Marvel.
no,
He's
wait,
gonna
wait.
start a
She,
campaign. Just
so
do it.
okay, so
Jesus.
that's where she has no credibility. She doesn't know like what the Marvel superheroes are, right? She thinks Wonder Woman's part of
don't.
Marvel. Okay.
No idea.
Face. I don't fucking know either. I have no idea.
Jeez.
Yeah, but sorry, I didn't catch what you said. What made you powerful? I missed that part. Like
I was just saying wait until because Queen Janie was saying that she and Fnatic don't agree, and I said wait until you find a topic where you do agree.
oh
That's
yeah.
the best bit of this platform. Those unlikely coalitions when they pop up.
Oh yeah. Those are great.
Fnatic, what kind of food do you like? What kind of food do you like?
Everything. Oh, I hate mushrooms. Everything but mushrooms.
I fucking hate mushrooms too. Oh my god,
There
we're gonna
we
be
go.
best
See
of
that?
friends, Fnatic.
Oh my god.
Fucking mushrooms. Who the fuck is eating that? It's a fungi, mate. It's from the
See?
ground. Why would I want to
We
eat
got
that?
so much more in common than I thought. You like cuckold porn too?
Exactly. I like what?
Don't worry, move on.
Oh god. Oh Jesus Christ. Oh god.
Anyway, I need to probably
Yeah.
pop out.
Okay. No, I need to end the stream. But first of all, I just got to thank the individuals. Thank Eris, who was here before. Really, her time was very valuable. I think.
Her brilliant impression of me.
I thank Fnatic for coming in and engaging, and then getting pissed and leaving, and then coming back and engaging again.
Thank you for coming back.
Really great.
Can you agree that we don't sound the same?
You
We sound
know
very
that's a
different.
fucking
sometimes.
Right.
No.
Nah.
No,
This is like an
absolutely do.
American issue then.
No,
because we
this is
do not
people
sound the
international.
same.
No. This is international. This is international. We've heard people like all across my chat and other chats. When Janie comes in, I get that part. But like, well, we do mix.
Where do you
Americans
come
mix England and Australia next all the time.
from? Queen Janie, where do you come from?
Where do I come from?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Where
Don't sound like that.
I'm
I'm
trying.
not Irish.
I'm trying to work it out.
But she sounds Irish, doesn't she? She sounds Irish.
I'm from up north. I'm from up north in England, okay?
Okay.
I'm like near Scotlandish.
I'm going to work.
Say,
No. I'm going to work
just
on
say,
it.
I don't know what you're talking about. Say, I don't know what you're talking about, Pat.
I don't know what you're talking. No, let me work on it privately. I'll come back to you.
Okay, come back to me.
Okay, but you
This I
absolutely
need to see.
you absolutely
Yes.
fucking sound alike. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely not.
Oh god.
Not.
Oh.
Okay,
All
I'm going
And
away.
No, before you go.
See you later,
Thank
Mike.
you, Janie, for being here. I really appreciate you coming in, being part of this, and of course, I gotta thank profusely, like I always do, my good friend, my special friend Joe. Thank you for coming through, especially since this became.
And what you should do, if you want to support women, guys, you should follow us.
Yeah.
Follow us because I'm a 5 viewer Andy. You could make me a 6 viewer Andy.
Okay.
That's Queen_Janie.
Yeah, and I put a link in chat.
Promo. You know you gotta do
And
it.
I put Joe's link in chat. But Joe, thank you so much. You really helped move this conversation along. So I always appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy individual, so thank you so much.